sacking for withholding red flags about Lord Mandelson from ministers was justified.
He wasn't allowed to disclose the information thanks to the Constitutional Reform and Governance Act. It seems to me that Keir Starmer's basically been hoisted on his own petard. They created this very rigid system of independence, which essentially made decisions unaccountable. And now he's blaming the guy who made the decision in the system that they created.
There'll be an investigation into how the secret security information about Lord Mandelson was leaked. Dave Penman from the FDA Civil Servants Union told LBC the chaos ever since shows why it's important to keep vetting out of the political arena.
This sort of information and the issues at hand around vetting, as soon as they fall into the political domain, end up being used like this. And that affects our national security. You think about the debate and discussion we're having at this moment in time. Do you think this serves this country's interests or our enemy's interests?
Former Labour Cabinet Minister Claire Short is credited with inspiring Lord Mandelson's Prince of Darkness nickname. Andrew Marr asked her if Sir Keir Starmer was in the final stages of his time in Number 10.
Well, I think he's been sort of in it for a time. This is another big nail in the coffin. But I'm afraid it's not going to happen fast. I'm sure lots of people in the country have been amused. What is all this about? We know Peter Mandelson wasn't any good and he's gone, so why is this going on and on?
The Prime Minister says the government won't stop fighting anti-Semitism and terror. It's after 7 people were arrested by counter-terror police over an alleged arson plot targeting a Jewish site. With only hours left on the 2-week ceasefire between the United States and Iran, a new round of talks between the two countries looks unlikely. Host nation Pakistan says there's no confirmation that Iran will attend, and the US Vice President's trip to Islamabad is on hold. A 32-year-old man's admitted raping and assaulting a Sikh woman he believed to be Muslim. The religiously aggravated attack happened in her Walsall home last year. LBC's Luke Shanahan's been following the case.
The second day of the trial of John Ashby, who denied rape, had just begun at Birmingham Crown Court when someone from the public gallery approached the dock and verbally abused the defendant. About an hour afterwards, Ashby asked to see his barrister to change his plea and admit rape, robbery, intentional strangulation and religiously aggravated assault.
And social media companies have denied their platforms are inherently addictive. MPs have been questioning tech firms on children's screen time and harmful content as they consider restrictions on platforms. Laura Higgins is from online gaming company Roblox.
There is no evidence directly that says that games are addictive by nature. We know that there is still a lot of work going on in that space. Anything that is consumed excessively is harmful, and so we would discourage that.
In the city, the FTSE 100 has closed down 110 points at 10,498. The pound buys $1.35 and €1.15. LBC weather, dry tonight with cloud in the northeast and clear spells and the chance of a frost elsewhere. Windy in the southwest, lows of 1 to 11 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Matt Hewitt.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Iain Dale.
Hello, a very good evening. 5 minutes past 7 is the time on LBC. Welcome to the programme. It's Iain Dale here with you until 10. Now, I don't know about you, but when I got up this morning, I got my breakfast, put it on the table and watched Ollie Robbins for 2.5 hours at the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, because I thought it probably would be one of those momentous occasions that Parliament sometimes dishes up. And I don't think we were disappointed. I've never met Ollie Robbins. I know of him by reputation, but certainly from when he used to work for David Davis in the Brexit years. And shall we say, as we found out last night, that David Davis and he did not always get on. I also thought it would be box office because Emily Thornberry was chairing the Foreign Affairs Select Committee hearing. And she was in, I thought, magnificent form. I thought she was, those of you of a certain generation will get what I'm about to say. I thought that she was channeling Gwyneth Dunwoody, who was a Labour MP. She died, 15 years ago or so. And she was chairman of the Transport Select Committee. And everybody used to fear going up against her. And I thought Emily Thornberry's questioning was fantastic. I thought there were 11 MPs on this committee. Every single one of them was great. They asked good questions, good follow-up questions, and gave Ollie Robbins a real interrogation. There was no aggression as such. None of them did any grandstanding, which you do sometimes get, particularly from new MPs on a select committee. There was none of that. And I thought we learned an awful lot. But did it change the dial? I'm not sure it did, if I'm honest, because I think those people who were always against Keir Starmer's version of events still were after the committee hearing. And those people who wanted to believe Sir Ollie Robbins, they were still in favour of him. So from that point of view, as I said, as Theresa May would say, not a lot has changed. However, we did learn quite a lot from it in terms of the detail. The major revelation was when one of the MPs said, well, has the government asked you to do vetting for any other potential ambassadors of a political nature? And much to my surprise, Ollie Robbins said, oh, yes, there was Matthew Doyle, now Lord Doyle. He was Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, and he was sacked last year. And clearly, they wanted to give him an ambassadorship as a bit of a consolation prize. And Ollie Robbins basically said, no, we're not doing this. It would be very, it would go against everything to agree to do that. So it never happened. Matthew Doyle, meanwhile, has said this afternoon that this is the first he knew of it, that nobody in Number 10 ever informed him that he was being suggested as a potential ambassador. So a lot happened in this hearing, and let's get more of the details. But before we do, I want to tell you what the question is that I want you to answer during the course of this hour. Excuse me. So I want to know if you think the government is just looking for a fall guy in Sir Ollie Robbins, or do you accept that the Prime Minister was let down by unelected officials? 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. You were clearly watching it as well. You were, of course, at work, not having your breakfast. What did you make of it?
I would have watched it even if I hadn't been at work, just for the record.
Well, I know, because we're such geeks, aren't we?
But it was absolutely extraordinary, wasn't it? And it really couldn't have been more important, because it was really part two of part one yesterday, where Keir Starmer explained his version of events. He was quizzed and questioned by Kemi Badenoch, by other opposition leaders, and indeed by his own MPs too. And this could have made everything fall apart for him. If Ollie Robbins had contradicted any of his sort of key central claims that he made yesterday, like, for example, that no one in Number 10 knew, then I think there would be serious calls for Keir Starmer to go today. That did not happen, but there was still, just extraordinary nuggets. You just mentioned that about Lord Doyle, Matthew Doyle. What I also found extraordinary about that was that it seems Ollie Robbins was also told not to tell the Foreign Secretary at the time, who was David Lammy, which he said he felt very uncomfortable about. And the thing that he really clearly wanted to get across, that he talked about multiple times, was that he and his team at the Foreign Office were under constant pressure from Downing Street to get Peter Mandelson over to the US before Donald Trump moved back into the White House last January.
I'm afraid what that translated into for my team in the Foreign Office, and certainly the handover briefing I was getting as I arrived at post, was what I felt was a generally dismissive attitude to his vetting clearance. The focus was on getting Mandelson out to Washington quickly. Despite this atmosphere, an atmosphere of pressure, the department completed developed vetting to the normal high standard. Because the vetting process is not there to determine fitness for office or reputational risk, it's there to protect national security.
And just on political pressure too, Iain, the timeline set out was that when Sir Ollie Robbins took over in the Foreign Office on January the 20th, Lord Mandelson had already gone through the Cabinet Office's due diligence process. Approval had already been given by the King. The US had already agreed to him. He was already allowed in the building, was being granted access to highly classified briefings on a case-by-case basis. And essentially, his point is that dropping Lord Mandelson as the nominee for the Washington Post would have caused quite an issue with Donald Trump's incoming administration in January 2025. And I think that does speak to the political pressure that, of course, I should say, is being denied by Downing Street, that there was this pressure. It was also extraordinary to hear from him that the normal vetting process was only carried out because the Foreign Office put its foot down. Effectively, he said the Cabinet Office suggested that Lord Mandelson's status as a member of the House of Lords and as a Privy Councillor meant that was unnecessary. And he talked about a dismissive attitude from Number 10 in response to vetting. So some extraordinary lines coming out of the Select Committee this morning.
Has it changed the dial?
It has added pressure to Keir Starmer's position. There are new questions that there weren't this morning, like about Lord Doyle, Matthew Doyle, like about whether or not Ollie Robbins should have been sacked. He basically said in the Select Committee too that he he basically would do the same thing again. And speaking to Labour MPs this afternoon, which I have been doing, some of them did say they didn't feel that he should have been sacked, and they thought he was very impressive at this Select Committee. In terms of how much it has changed the dial, I think Keir Starmer was already in a bad position. I think people, Labour MPs I'm talking about, were already talking about timelines, already talking about when Keir Starmer might go, potentially October, potentially next year, potentially May. One minister suggested to me that he would go after those crucial set of local elections, the elections in Wales and Scotland too. But I don't think it's imminent, and I don't think today has made it imminent. As I say, it could have made it imminent. There are things that Ollie Robbins could have said today which would have made it imminent. And effectively, he sort of does have the last word because his day came after Keir Starmer's day. And still, they are not out of trouble with Lord Mandelson because they're sort of through this, but we are still waiting to get the next tranche of documents from the humble address.
Which apparently are not going to come out until after the local elections. I mean, how cynical is that?
Well, I mean, I suppose they would say that they have a lot to compile and they have already put out some, but there will be some who see it exactly like that will be another damaging wound for the Prime Minister, and one that they don't want before the local elections, which they already know are going to be so difficult. I mean, people are saying, they're starting to say, oh, everyone is ready for how bad May will be and how bad it will be after May. And it's always difficult with these things to work out how much is expectation management and how much is them actually being honest about how bad it's going to be and using the word bloodbath over and over again. But it does sound like they are expecting it to be a disaster. Whether or not that translates to, again, an imminent threat to Keir Starmer, I'm not sure it will be imminent, but the wagons are certainly, or at least feel that they are certainly circling.
Because the thing is, this whole Mandelson farrago is going to go on and on and on, and it's not the media hyping it up, as some people seem to be alleging. The fact that the Prime Minister sacked Ollie Robbins without any due process at all means that, and given what he said this morning, it seems obvious that he's going to claim constructive dismissal. And I think he's probably got an open and shut case for this. Les in Cambridge is texting here. Can someone explain how these people get sacked without seemingly having gone through the usual dismissal route expected of any normal company? I mean, given that the Prime Minister is a lawyer, okay, he wasn't an employment lawyer, but he knows the game here. Given that he's a lawyer, do you think he's going to live to regret doing it in that way?
Well, that's certainly what some Labour MPs think will happen, because also it's not just whether or not he does. And there did seem to be an implication that he might want to do some sort of tribunal, go through some sort of process, especially because he very much wanted to reiterate throughout this 2.5-hour session that he felt he had played things by the book, despite political pressure, undue pressure that he claims was being put on him. But I think there's that. Will he come to regret it from that point of view? But there's also, will he come to regret it from the fact that there was a, what some would say is a sort of searingly difficult 2.5 hours where someone set out their case against Keir Starmer's case. And we wouldn't know about, for example, the Lord Doyle, Matthew Doyle thing, unless he had been sacked, unless he was sat in front of that Select Committee again. So he may well come to regret it. And also it does bring back to the fore that argument that is being made by opposition MPs, but is also being made by his own MPs, that he often sacks other people. And a senior Labour MP said to me months and months ago, and I often think of it, but said, eventually there's going to be no one else left to blame. And I talked to that senior Labour MP today and reminded them of that. And they said, yes, well, there are very few people left. And that there is that narrative, and it is mostly coming from opposition MPs, but it's not great when Labour MPs agree with that criticism.
You see, my overwhelming conclusion from this morning is that I can actually see both sides. If I was the Prime Minister, and there's a thought, I would be furious that I hadn't been told.
Of course.
I'd like to think I would have asked the question, but I would still be furious if I hadn't been told. He clearly didn't. But on the other hand, you see it from Ollie Robbins' point of view, and there are clear procedures set out. And so he thinks he was doing the right thing. But it's one of those things, never the twain shall meet. And if you are a supporter of Keir Starmer, if you are a Labour supporter, you're going to take Keir Starmer's side. If you don't like Labour, if you don't vote Labour, you're sort of almost automatically going to take Ollie Robbins' side. And yet I can see both of them. So maybe this is further evidence of my liberal democratery, isn't it?
Potentially.
As I'm always accused of, although somebody's calling me a Tory W word here, which is nice.
Goodness.
I know.
There is some silver lining for Keir Starmer, though, and Labour MPs, and that is that I am still told, I was told this yesterday and I've been told it again today, that apparently this isn't really coming up on the doorstep, that Labour MPs don't think this is particularly cutting through for them ahead of those
they would
elections.
In an election period, of course they're going to say that. That is certainly not what I'm hearing from people, that it is coming up. It has cut through. People think that it's a bit of a scandal, and it's not something that is just a Westminster bubble story.
That's really interesting. I mean, that is what I've had from a few different Labour MPs who in the same conversations were being pretty open about their thoughts about their leader. But perhaps they were exaggerating it. I think there is a difference between the Mandelson story, which is definitely cut through, and then the technicalities of this story. And they think that because it's a bit processy, because it's a bit complicated, it's not cut through, at least not yet, in the same way as other scandals.
On the 18 minutes past one train today, which I unfortunately managed to get the same train as Tom Swarbrick, lots of gossip was had.
Fly on the wall.
There were people talking about it on that train.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Anyway, we'll talk about it in a moment. We'll take your calls, and we'll also be hearing from one of the members of the Select Committee that was quizzing Ollie Robbins this morning. You're listening to LBC. I'm Iain Dale. It's 18 minutes past 7.
Weekdays from 7 a.m.
Why don't you get the Prime Minister on the phone and say, come on, Sir Keir, we've actually got to show some action here.
Straight to the point.
You're going backwards.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
This is not a one-off incident.
Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app. Download it now from your app store. LBC.
What's the best present you ever got for your birthday? I bet it wasn't as life-changing as £1 million. Every week with the birthday draw, there's £1 million to be won. And you can enter from as little as £1 or via post. Enter by midnight on Sunday and your special day could win you £1 million. Visit thebirthdaydraw.com. Is it your lucky day? From Global and ITV. 18 plus UK only, no purchase necessary.
The following is from TfL.
My name was Luna, like the moon. I was 2 days short of my 17th birthday when I was killed. My killer wasn't a bad man. He had a rescue dog called Frank and rang his mum every Sunday. He wasn't a speed freak. He just thought it was okay to go a few miles an hour over the limit. But that was enough to knock me off my bike and kill me.
Speeding injures or kills over 1,000 people in London every year. Slow down. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Switching to Vodafone full fibre broadband is now as easy as pie. Ooh, freshly baked. It's a walk in the park. Hello, little fella. It's like taking candy from a baby. Come on, as if I'd do that. With One Touch Switch, it's easy. We sort everything out for you. We even contact your current provider. Plus, we'll help towards leaving fees. Switch today to full fibre broadband with Vodafone.
Up to £200 credit to cover leaving fees. More information and terms at vodafone.co.uk/broadband.
Iain Dale on LBC.
20 past 7 on LBC. Simon says, you're more reform than Lib Dems. Stop kidding yourself. I don't know how many more times I have to say it. I am certainly not reform inclined. And Steve says, Iain, you definitely are a Tory wannabe. well, it wasn't that word beginning with W that I was called. Now, one of the members of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee who questioned Sir Ollie Robbins this morning is the Conservative MP, Sir John Whittingdale. And he explained to me a little earlier what we now know that we didn't know before this morning's session.
Quite a lot. Ollie Robbins is clearly upset and angry, and he is not going to allow himself to be made to take the blame for what has been a terrible failure of government. So what we learnt today was firstly the extent to which Number 10 was pressing for Peter Mandelson's appointment to be confirmed, that all the warnings about potential difficulties with security vetting, about his connections, all of those were ignored, and the Foreign Office were getting daily calls saying, why hasn't it been done yet? And then, just as if that in itself wasn't enough, we then had a bombshell revelation in the Select Committee that this wasn't the only appointment that Number 10 was trying to push through. We were told that they had told the Foreign Office to look for a potential place for Matthew Doyle, the former communications director at Number 10, and that the Foreign Secretary shouldn't even be told that was in hand.
And Matthew Doyle has said that he knows nothing about it, that nobody ever told him that he was even being suggested for this kind of role, which in itself is quite a revelation.
The whole saga is extraordinary. It suggests that there is a sort of culture in Number 10 where they just think that we've got somebody we need to get a post for. Let's go and look around. We can be put in that. I mean, the Prime Minister uses the word over and over again, due process. And yet, actually, what this proves is there's no due process at all. It's Number 10 simply think they can do what they like.
But this kind of political appointment, it's not unheard of, is it? I mean, your former colleague George Hollingbury, he was appointed ambassador to Cuba. I'm not sure that he had any diplomatic experience. Ed Llewellyn, David Cameron's former chief of staff, now he did. He became the ambassador in France and Rome. So it's not wholly unprecedented.
Not wholly. In fact, the fact that we can actually list the number of occasions on which it has happened does prove, but it's very rare indeed. There were a couple of Labour ones in the past, Paul Boateng, I think, and Valerie Amos, and Helen Liddell. So, every now and again it happens. What is different about this one is, firstly, the British ambassador to Washington is just about the most important post. And secondly, this is a man who the Prime Minister was pushing to have appointed, who had already had to resign twice from government, who had known connections with a convicted paedophile, and where there were serious concerns about the security given some of his connections, both with Russia and China. So, on all those grounds, it at least should have been subject to the full vetting procedure. And I have no reason to think that actually those other appointments you've just described, they were certainly not pushed through in the way that this one has been.
Do you think that Keir Starmer is using Ollie Robbins as a scapegoat?
Oh, there's no question in my mind that Number 10 are trying to suggest that Ollie Robbins somehow concealed facts. The Prime Minister says it beggars belief that he was not told by Ollie Robbins that the security vetting agency had recommended denial. Now, what we learnt this morning was, firstly, that actually Ollie Robbins himself didn't know that the agency had formally recommended. He was told something, the words we were told were leaning towards refusal, but not that it was a formal refusal. And secondly, as has been confirmed by the Cabinet Office and others, it is not the case that the Prime Minister would automatically be told that vetting procedure is carried out amongst a very small circle. And certainly, even when Ollie Robbins asked to see the file, he was told he couldn't because he didn't have national security grounds to do so.
You, many, many years ago, you were private secretary to Margaret Thatcher in Number 10. So
that's right.
You kind of know how these things operate. Okay, a long time ago. But was there ever any situation like this when you were there?
No, never. And I would, it would be unthinkable. One of the things which actually I quoted in the Commons and is well known, I mean, you will remember as well as I, Margaret Thatcher, her famous phrase was, officials advise, ministers decide. And that was her absolute belief. And therefore the suggestion that somehow you can say, oh, well, I didn't really know, it was all the officials doing, This is an appointment that was made at the direct request of the Prime Minister. It was his decision. Maybe he was advised, maybe he was, I think one MP said this afternoon, he was persuaded. That's not good enough. He decided that Mandelson was the right person against all the evidence and all the previous record, which suggested that was going to be a disaster, and it was a disaster, it turned out.
Do you not think the Prime Minister of this country, though, should automatically be told in these circumstances if somebody has failed a security vetting? I mean, I can see... I mean, Diane Abbott, I thought, made the most telling contribution yesterday when she said, well, why didn't you ask? But the fact is, if I was Prime Minister, I would expect to be told something like that.
Well, it is a complicated process, and Oliver Robbins corrected several members of the committee this morning, saying he didn't fail the vetting process because the final decision is taken by the appointing department. In this case, it was the Foreign Office.
Sophistry, though, isn't it?
It is to some extent, because if a recommendation of refusal is made by the security services, which is what we understand was the case, the security agency responsible for vetting, you'd have thought that there would need to be extraordinary circumstances to ignore that or to overlook it. But that is apparently what happened. Now, we're also told that that is a decision for the department and the Permanent Secretary, and it would not be normal for ministers to be informed.
You have been a cabinet minister. You've chaired a select committee. You are what the Americans would call the ranking member of this Foreign Affairs Select Committee. Just give our listeners an indication of what it's like sitting there in one of these sort of set-piece grillings, which often don't live up to expectations, do they? They can often be a bit of a damp squib. This one wasn't, was it?
This one certainly wasn't. And actually, I think that it was a good demonstration of how effective select committees can be. Select committees work best when all the members work as a team.
Yeah.
They put aside their
And you clearly were working as a team. I mean, there was no grandstanding from any one.
I mean, there are 11 members of this committee, of which 7 are members of the Labour Party. So there is a considerable Labour majority on the committee. And yet, actually, we all pursued the same themes. We agreed beforehand who was going to question on what grounds. But no, I think we worked well as a team. I don't think there was any letting off the hook by any members of the committee. And actually, the result was, in my view, and I think the view of most observers, very damaging to the Prime Minister.
John Whittingdale, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that was John Whittingdale, the Conservative MP, who's a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Paul's in Twickenham. Hello, Paul.
Good evening, Ian. Ian, I think one point that's been missed here is your question: why wasn't Ollie Roberts prepared to at least indicate, tell Keir Starmer why the security vetting had been refused? His answer was very revealing, and it showed the compassion and morals of the man. He said, the reason you never reveal what the security vetting result was for someone who's been appointed as an ambassador, say, to Russia, to China, anywhere else around the world, is if you publicly reveal that the person has been appointed, but they failed the security checking element, which is only one element, you immediately expose that person to risk. People will then focus on that man, our enemies, as he put it. Ollie Robbins said, our enemies and adversaries will focus on that person and will try to destroy them. And he said, my concern, if we reveal routinely what the result of the security check was, then our people, diplomats, as he were, our ambassadors anywhere around the world, will immediately be put at risk. And so that's why we never do that. That's why I didn't do it. In fact, I didn't even know what the result was. I am not personally told what the result is. I have no part in deciding what it should be. And my job is not to be part of that process to decide whether the person's suitable. My job is simply to report the final outcome, which he did in this case. He told Keir Starmer that the independent people had approved, the Foreign Office had approved Mandelson's application to be the ambassador, but he quite rightly, in accordance with all civil service and national security ethics and morals and protocols, absolutely refused to comment on the question of the security element vetting of this process.
I'm sorry, Paul. Look, what you've said is by and large right, but surely the Prime Minister of this country, I'm not suggesting any junior minister or any sort of MP has a right to know this, but surely the Prime Minister has a right to know if he has failed the security vetting, which he had before it was overruled by Ollie Robbins, who is not elected by anybody.
I'd say, Ian, he wasn't overruled by Ollie Robbins.
Yes, he was.
What I understand the process to be is the Foreign Office gets the security committee's input. In this case,
no, it's nothing to do with the security committee. It's the professional security services who do the vetting.
The security services, forgive me. The Foreign Office gets the security services input and treats that not as the end of the story. They then construct it, deconstruct it, muck about with it, and decide, can we mitigate?
But what's the point of having the security vetting if it can then be overruled by somebody who hasn't even been involved in the process and doesn't know what the actual reasons are that they were minded to turn it down?
No, we're misunderstanding. And what the question is not overruling by Ollie Robbins.
Well, it absolutely was.
No, he said the security services findings are then analysed by an independent team, independent of anyone.
Which is him and his colleague.
Sorry?
Which is him and his colleague.
No, it's nothing to do with Ollie Robbins. The security services input is analysed by a team within the Foreign Office, which again
is led by Ollie Robbins and somebody else that he didn't name. I mean, you're tying yourself up in knots here, Paul, because what you said just then is completely wrong. They decided that they got the report. It said that they were minded to not give security vetting. And then Ollie Robbins and his colleagues decided the opposite because they thought they could mitigate the problem.
No, as I understood it, Ian, very important point. It was not Ollie Robbins' job to influence in any way or take any part in the analysis of the security services vetting. His job was simply to be briefed by an independent team within the Foreign Office who had analysed the security services.
I think you've got this completely wrong, Paul, if I may say so. And I think you should go back and look at the evidence that Ollie Robbins gave. I don't think that's what he said at all. He was the one, the ultimate decision maker, to overrule that decision. And this is where his argument doesn't really stack up. He was saying that, well, I don't know why the security services decided that on balance he shouldn't be proceeded with. And then he said, but then we would take mitigating actions to make sure that there wouldn't be a problem, whether it was to do with his connections to Russia, China, Epstein, whatever. Now, those two things do not add up, do they? We have to go. Paul, thank you very much indeed. 0345 6060 973. We'll be talking about the possible extension of the ceasefire with Iran in a moment, and we'll take more of your calls on the whole Mandelson vetting saga. It's 7:34. News headlines on LBC with Matt Hewitt.
Liz Truss has told LBC she doesn't think Sir Ollie Robbins should have been sacked for withholding red flags raised during Lord Mandelson's vetting to be ambassador to Washington. But the former Prime Minister says the real problem is he wasn't allowed to share them due to what she's called a rigid system of independence, which essentially makes decisions unaccountable. Donald Trump says Iran has no choice but to attend negotiations with the US in Pakistan, though his vice president's trip to the talks has been put on hold. A ceasefire expires early tomorrow. And the Met Police have won a judicial review into the use of live facial recognition across London. A man who'd been misidentified by the technology brought the case, saying it's like stop and search on steroids. He plans to appeal. LBC weather, dry tonight with cloud in the northeast and clear spells elsewhere. Lows between 1 and 11 degrees.
The LBC app. News your way. This is LBC.
Oh, you want weight loss advice?
Weight loss? Actually, what you want to do...
I got my weight loss secret from my mother, who got it from her mother's
My
mother. For weight loss,
forget that. You just
keep dancing. Dragon fruit.
Podcast.
Advice.
Or you could go to MedExpress. MedExpress. Healthcare without the noise. Go to medexpress.co.uk/weight loss.
Ali 60mg hard capsules contain orlistat for overweight adults with a BMI of 28+. Follow a reduced calorie, low fat diet. Always read the label.
The following is from TfL.
I got loads of flowers the other day. And messages from people I didn't even know. My mates spelled out my name in tea lights. And my mom hung my favourite footy shirt on the railings, next to the lamppost, where I got killed. By a nice lady. Just someone who thought it was okay to go a few miles an hour over the limit.
Speeding injures or kills over 1,000 people in London every year. Slow down. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Experience. It's knowing the difference between a good deal and, well, a great deal. That's why right now you can get a £250 gift card when you take out Saga Health Insurance. You get 24/7 GP access whenever you want it, and the freedom to choose your preferred private hospital with your own room should you need it. Search Saga Health Insurance for a quote today. Start a new policy before the 28th of May. New customers over 50 only. Terms and conditions apply.
Iain Dale on LBC. Text 84850.
7:37 on LBC. Now, Donald Trump said today that he expects to resume bombing Iran as a fragile 14-day ceasefire approaches its deadline on Wednesday, with so far no deal in sight. He told CNBC's Squawk Box, "I expect to be bombing because I think that's a better attitude to go in with. We're ready to go. The military is ready to go." And when asked if he would extend the ceasefire, he replied, "I don't want to do that. We don't have that much time." Well, let's get the latest from Negar Mojtahedi, who is a journalist and presenter for Iran International English and also the host of the I4 Iran podcast. Negar, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Some belligerent words there from Donald Trump. Now, as I understand it, American negotiators have arrived in Islamabad to continue peace talks, but the Iranians haven't. Am I right in that?
J.D. Vance, the vice president, was supposed to take a flight from Miami to Islamabad this morning, but he was rerouted for an emergency meeting with President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. He is currently there, and Pete Hegseth is also taking part in those discussions. So we have yet to see what is really happening here. I mean, it's $1 million question, but when it comes to the Iranian regime side, there are severe and genuine factions within the regime. You have characters like Vahidi, who is the head of the IRGC, Zolgar and Radon, the head of the police, who are hardliners who say we will make no concessions. We don't even want to be in the same room with the Americans. Then you have the Speaker of the House, or Speaker of the Parliament, Ghalibaf, who he is also a hardliner. He's not a moderate or a reformist, but he is very pragmatic. And he is willing to make some concessions, at least on the surface, to stay in power. Whether they actually adhere to any concessions made is another question. But the factions are quite severe. We have an exclusive at Iran International that Ghalibaf in a meeting said that Saeed Jalali, who's the head of the part of Iran's National Security Council, that he's an extreme militia who wants to destroy him. And he's quite fearful that him and Foreign Minister Abbas Araqchi will be taken out. So the question really goes back to, well, who is really ruling Iran right now? And there's no clear answer there. And that's going to affect the outcome of whatever materializes here with the talks.
What is the bottom line for Iran here? Is it enriched uranium? That's what I was reading over the weekend, that's the one thing that they will not give way on. And that's the one thing which Donald Trump won't give way on.
Yes. I mean, right now there is a ceasefire, but their understanding of what that ceasefire is very different for both sides. So yes, they may have agreed to a ceasefire for now, but the belief of what that means is different for both parties here. And that's their red line. Donald Trump's red line is that there should be no enrichment. So I believe that this is going to end up in more war and escalation. more severe than we've seen in previous rounds. I do believe that the Americans it's highly likely they're going to bring in special forces units to take out that unaccounted for more than 400 kilograms of unaccounted for highly enriched uranium, and that they may see, them taking over Harg Island.
Thank you very much for joining us, Negar. That's Negar Mojtahedi from Iran International. Her podcast is called I for Iran. That's EYE, not I. See what they did there. Right, let's go back to your calls on Ollie Robbins and Peter Mandelson and Keir Starmer, the vetting scandal, if that's what we can call it. But before we do that, let me tell you who's on Cross Question at 8. Peran Moon, who's Labour MP for Camborne and Redruth. Baroness Rachel McLean, Conservative peer. Kate Nichols, chairman of the trade body Campaign Group UK Hospitality. And Dr. Tessa Dunlop, historian and broadcaster and the co-host with me of the Global podcast where politics meets history. Right, let's have a word with Nick in Oxshott. Hello, Nick.
Hello, good evening. Please excuse a rather croaky voice. I have 2 points. The more important one is that we can't afford to lose a competent and decent civil servant who has just followed what was the standard Foreign Office procedure. And he should be reinstated, which is a perfectly normal outcome of an employment dispute.
That won't happen, I can assure you of that.
Well, I know it probably won't, but it jolly well should. So I'm surprised it hasn't been suggested by anybody. All the Prime Minister would have to do is to accept that there's been confusion and misunderstanding about the process, which is undoubtedly the case. And he might get a much-needed brownie point for magnanimity. It would enhance his standing if he climbed down from all this.
Well, he's already apologised for the fact that he appointed Peter Mandelson in the first place. I don't think we're going to get another apology.
I'm not suggesting it's nothing to do with Mandelson. This is to do with Sir Ollie. And I'm not suggesting an apology, merely an acceptance that there's been confusion and misunderstanding.
Yes, but by reinstating him, he would have to apologise for making the wrong decision yet again.
No, he wouldn't. He'd just say it was a misunderstanding. In any event, it would be the right thing to do, and it might enhance his standing if he climbed down from all this false indignation he's been propagating. Anyhow, that's my first point for what it's worth. The second is that even if he had told the Prime Minister that the developed vetting, whatever it's called, the committee had recommended that Mandelson shouldn't be appointed, or whatever they did recommend, because of the confidentiality of the process, he would not have been able to say on what ground. That would have been a breach of the statute. So the Prime Minister wouldn't have known. All he would have known is that the vetting committee had recommended that he not be appointed. But he wouldn't have known whether this was just one of the several issues which he, the Prime Minister, had already considered before appointing Mandelson in the first place.
Well, the only thing the Prime Minister needed to know was that he had failed the security vetting. He didn't need to know the details of why, because if you're told that someone's failed the security vetting, you don't continue with the appointment process.
Well, I completely disagree, because he might have failed the security vetting, and probably did, on grounds which the Prime Minister had already fully considered in the light of the Cabinet Office.
Well, what's the point of having security vetting then?
Probably in this case there wasn't one.
Oh, please.
Which is why they tried to override the Foreign Office and say it wasn't necessary.
No, the Foreign Office overrode the Cabinet Office.
Yes, you're right, exactly. But the Cabinet Office didn't think that one was necessary, and I don't think it was.
But the Cabinet Office, yes, I think you're right. Initially, they said there was no need for security vetting, but they were the ones that commissioned it because the Foreign Office said, no, you need to do this. So they commissioned it. The result of that was that the security vetting said it's a borderline case, but on balance, we do not think that we would approve security vetting. And that's when the Foreign Office stepped in and overrode it. Now, the Prime Minister didn't need to know all of that. All the Prime Minister needed to know know was that the original vetting had not been passed, and therefore he should have withdrawn the appointment, because by that time, of course, Peter Mandelson had already been appointed. They didn't wait for the security vetting before he even took up his position, which I think is partly the scandal here. Nick, thank you very much. John says, you've all made up your minds about Starmer long ago. Well, you're right on that. He can do no right. Well, that's not true, because I'm on record of things that he has got right. For example, his relationship building with Donald Trump, I thought was right. There are many other things I have given him credit for. But if I think he's got something wrong, I'm going to say so. Anyway, John continues, this isn't about vetting. Well, it is. Otherwise, you would be outraged that Boris Johnson was never cleared to be Foreign Secretary. The vetting for ministers is different from that for ambassadors. You can argue that it shouldn't be, but it is. You would be furious he appointed Lord Lebedev of Siberia. I am furious about that and said so at the time. You aren't. I am. You would tell your audience every time a Reform candidate gets dumped after passing their vetting, despite being racist, misogynist or neo-Nazis. That's from John in Hartlepool. Well, we do cover those sorts of things. You can't cover every single one because there are too many of them. Just as the Green Party have got their problems on this front at the moment. But I notice you don't mention that, John, in Hartlepool, because you're clearly bigoted against anyone to the right of Tony Blair, probably including Tony Blair, it has to be said. It's 7:46.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
We're waiting for part 2, effectively, of the latest instalment of the Mandelson saga. This is Ollie Robbins appearing before this panel of MPs.
The handover briefing I was getting as I arrived at post was what I felt was a generally dismissive attitude to his vetting clearance. The focus was on getting Mandelson out to Washington quickly.
We all know what's gone on. The Prime Minister was determined to put someone who had a very shady past in a key post, and he didn't want to hear any criticism. He'd hoped there would be no vetting, and when the vetting was going against him, he made no inquiries as to find out what was going on.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Back tomorrow morning from 7. Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
3, 2, 1, 0% APR on an all-electric Mini Cooper. What was that, Luton? Handling is extraordinary, centre of gravity so low, and it could be ours with a 15% deposit and 3-year term. OK, Luton, reroute me to the nearest Mini retailer now.
Land a new all-electric Mini Cooper with 0% APR. Report to your Mini retailer today. Mini UK is a credit broker. Ordered and delivered by 30th of June. PCP finance with Mini Financial Services. Subject to status. 18+. T's and C's apply. mini.co.uk/Cooper.
If you were missold a home on a holiday park, holidayparkadvicecentre.co.uk could help you receive compensation. Text ADVICE to 78900.
Switching to Vodafone full fibre broadband is now as easy as pie. Oh, freshly baked. It's a walk in the park. Hello, little fella. It's like taking candy from a baby. Come on, as if I'd do that. With One Touch Switch, it's easy. We sort everything out for you. We even contact your current provider. Plus, we'll help towards leaving fees. Switch today to full fibre broadband with Vodafone.
Up to £200 credit to cover leaving fees. More information and terms at vodafone.co.uk/broadband.
Your time is valuable. Your perspective should be too. The Economist cuts through the noise with the stories that truly shape your world.
How can you believe that a new regime won't crush you just like the previous one?
Online scams are stranger than they've ever been.
When the world's turned upside down, know which way is up. Read, watch, or listen to The Economist.
The following is from TfL.
My name was Luna, like the moon. I was 2 days short of my 17th birthday when I was killed. My killer wasn't a bad man. He had a rescue dog called Frank and rang his mum every Sunday. He wasn't a speed freak. He just thought it was okay to go a few miles an hour over the limit. But that was enough to knock me off my bike and kill me.
Speeding injures or kills over 1,000 people in London every year. Slow down. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
This is LBC with Iain Dale. Call 0345 6060 973.
7:49 on LBC. Simon says, "Oh, great joy, more Starmer bashing from Dale. You don't get it, do you? People aren't very interested in this story. It's not cutting through." Well, it's cut through with you, Simon, because you've sent a text in, haven't you? Look, this is the sort of thing where if you're a Starmer supporter, you think, oh, move along, nothing to see here. And if you're not, you think there is something to see. I think there is something to see because there clearly is something wrong at the heart of government. Now, you can blame Keir Starmer, you can blame Ollie Robbins, you can blame the system, but clearly something has gone wrong, and I think that is worthy of debate. We're not going to do it for 2 hours tonight. We're not going to cover it at 9 o'clock, but judging by the number of calls, we could easily do so. Let's go to John in West Hampstead. John, was that you who just texted me?
No.
Good.
There's clearly more than one John in the world, which is, obvious. So, look, I really don't understand this because Mandelson is rotten to the core, in my opinion. For the last 25 years, he's been known to be easily corruptible from Hinduja onwards, and I think also with the mortgage he did it with a mate of his as well. He's got a history. I mean, you don't need to go to the MI5, FBI, MI6, and all that to figure out. You know what? He is corruptible easily. Let's not put him in America. It's not a difficult one to figure out. So Starmer has to take responsibility for a very, very poor decision, as anyone does in business. If you make a bad decision, you've got to take the consequences.
But John, to be fair to Keir Starmer, he has apologised for making that appointment. So I don't know what else you want him to do.
Well, I think he should resign. That's what I think he should do.
Okay.
It's a pretty fundamentally poor decision to make when it's an obviously bad one from the outset, isn't it?
Well, I'm not sure. Look, I've held my hands up here, and because I said at the time that I thought it was a good appointment. Now, I didn't know a lot of the stuff about Epstein. I knew about the 2 resignations, obviously, but he'd been a European Trade Commissioner. One of the key priorities for this country was to get a trade deal with America. So I did say at the time that I thought it was a good thing. I mean, I've been proved wrong. Keir Starmer has apologised for that. You can't expect a Prime Minister to resign every time he gets a wrong decision.
According to your theory, then, how many apologies will he have to make before he resigns? How many more mistakes is it okay to make at the top?
Well, I haven't actually called for him to resign.
Well, I am.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a caller. It's my choice.
I'm not saying you don't have a right to an opinion, John. You absolutely do.
It's London's I don't know what LBC stands for.
Leading Britain's conversation.
Right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. But all I'm saying is I haven't called for him to resign. I think there is a case for him to resign, but I don't think he's going to, and I don't see the point.
How many more mistakes does he have to make then? Does the leader have to make before he should be resigning then? How many fundamental mistakes should he be making?
Well, everybody's going to have a different view on that.
Oh, there you go. I think.
I think the decision not to allow Trump to use American bases in Britain, I think that was a far more serious mistake.
You mean Starmer's decision?
What did I say? Trump? I meant Starmer's decision not to allow American planes to take off from their air bases. I think that decision on its own is possibly the worst decision he's made in his premiership, because that alone has shattered the special relationship.
Yes, quite right. Probably has.
Okay, we can agree, sort of. John, thank you. Richard is in Nottingham. Hello, Richard.
Hello, good evening, Ian.
Hi.
It goes like this. There's one major issue which I feel that nobody in government or anybody else has raised on this. Now, Mandelson would obviously have to have the vetting. So the basic background is probably done by the Foreign Office, but the security side would be, I assume, by either MI5 or MI6 or some such body.
Yeah.
Now, they have declared, I presume, that this man is a risk.
Correct.
Therefore, what I don't understand is that whoever it was that was in there, the head of that report would have gone to him, should have gone to the Foreign Office and said, this is the case. We can't let this man go. We are taking this report.
What they actually... No, because you got something wrong there.
Please. Listen to what I'm saying, that they should have turned around and said, we are going to take this straight to the Prime Minister as a matter of security. Nobody's done that.
It's not the way it works.
Well, that doesn't matter. Well,
it does matter. There is a system, And that part of the system was adhered to because the report was commissioned by the Cabinet Office. The Cabinet Office then sent it to the Foreign Office because Peter Mandelson, as ambassador, would have been an employee of the Foreign Office. So it went to the Foreign Office in the person of Sir Ollie Robbins, and he decided that on balance, the conclusion of the Cabinet Office security vetting was, on balance, we don't think he should be given it. And Ollie Robbins decided to ignore that.
Yeah, that may be the case, but this is a typical. This is a case of, yes, Minister, absolute farce of going round and round the Wrekin, when in fact a simple answer, which by taking it straight to the Prime Minister, would have cut all this nonsense out, wouldn't it? Let's be honest, that would have been the case, wouldn't it?
And I think the Prime Minister has every right to know if somebody has failed a security vetting.
Quite rightly, he should have asked anyway, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. But I mean, I just feel that this... Anybody, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about ministers or anybody else, but if somebody, a known person, becomes either an economic or an international threat, that should go straight to the PM's office, not going through various departments to say, well, shall we do it or shan't we? That's just my opinion.
Well,
whether it's wrong or not, I don't know.
I don't disagree with you. I think you have to always look at these things. If you were in that position, would you expect to know? And I think the answer is yes, you would. Lenny's in Ashford. Hello, Lenny.
Good evening, Ian. Well, I think Starmer's problems is he lives in a very small world where he is God. And he's got no foresight. He doesn't look for the consequences of his decisions. It's why he's made so many U-turns. And, so, I mean, he is such and he's done so much damage to the country with that attitude. I mean, he's treating Ollie Robbins, that was doing his job, as he's been told, exactly the same as the soldiers that he's been prosecuting in Ireland. And, and people...
It's a bit of a stretch. I don't think the analogy really works. I know what you're trying to say, but I mean...
Yeah, but what it is, when, Ollie Robbins was doing his job the way he was told, and because it didn't suit, whether it was right or wrong, I don't think that Starmer had any reason to sack him when a man is abiding by the rules of his job.
Well, I agree with you that to sack him just based on the basis of one conversation, telephone conversation on Thursday night, I think was completely wrong. Ollie Robbins did not have any opportunity to explain himself in person to the Prime Minister. And I think that's why, if there is an employment tribunal, he will undoubtedly win it. Thank you very much indeed, Lenny. Michael says it could have been longer, to be honest, Ian. He's talking about the evidence session. If there had been an afternoon session too, then the MPs on the committee could have dug a bit deeper. I don't really agree with you there. I think they asked all of the questions that needed to be asked. He was very open in his answering. He didn't... I mean, there were, on a couple of occasions, he said he couldn't give answers, partly because it might prejudice any employment tribunal that he might demand, or he didn't want to throw other civil servants under the bus, and I kind of understand that. But he came across as an incredibly credible witness. Is that a tautology? And I think if you haven't watched it and you've been listening to the last hour thinking, well, I kind of do want to watch it, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube or the LBC catch-up service, or indeed on the Parliament channel. Do go and watch it, because it really is quite something. I thought it showed Parliament at its best. Right, coming up in the next hour, it is Tuesday's Cross Question, your chance to quiz our panel of politicians and commentators on the great issues of the day. Well, we know what the first question is going to be, I guess. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850, and of course you can watch us on Global Player, the LBC YouTube channel and the LBC app. Joining me, we have Perron Moon, the Labour MP for Cambourne and Redruth, Baroness Rachel McLean, Conservative peer, Kate Nichols, Chairman of the trade body campaign group UK Hospitality, and historian and broadcaster and podcaster Dr. Tessa Dunlop. So do get your calls in 0345 6060 973.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock, the sacked civil servant Sir Ollie Robbins says he faced constant pressure at the Foreign Office to get Peter Mandelson into the role of US ambassador as quickly as possible. But Downing Street's denied his claim that it was dismissive towards the vetting process. The former Home Secretary, Lord David Blunkett, gave his thoughts to LBC about the last few days.
You're back to should the Prime Minister have considered Peter Mandelson in the first place, rather than somebody did something evil in the period we're talking about. Ollie Robbins, who'd only been there a week, signing it off, and then Keir having a bit of a tantrum.
There'll now be an investigation into how the secret security information about Lord Mandelson was leaked. SNP Westminster leader Stephen Flynn has told LBC he thinks the Prime Minister has lost the confidence of the public.
When this issue first came to the fore in terms of the Prime Minister admitting that he knew that Mandelson had maintained a relationship with Epstein, well, there was a moral opportunity for Labour MPs to step up and hold him to account for the decision that he'd made to appoint the Prince of Darkness. But since then, the Prime Minister has now been enveloped by that darkness himself.
Iran and the US have accused each other of breaching the 2-week ceasefire a day before peace talks are due to take place. It's still unclear whether each side will send a delegation to Pakistan. Donald Trump has told US media he thinks Iran has no choice but to attend, and that the US military is raring to go when the ceasefire expires. Former Prime Minister Liz Truss told LBC he was right to go to war.
I was Foreign Secretary and Prime Minister when Biden was in. And I just watched the can being kicked down the road again and again, and the Iranians playing the system. And Trump has called them out.
The Prime Minister says the government won't give up in its fight against anti-Semitism after 7 people were arrested over an alleged plan to commit arson at another Jewish site. It comes after a 17-year-old boy pleaded guilty to arson at a synagogue in Harrow in North London. And 2 campaigners have lost a High Court challenge against the Metropolitan Police over its use of live facial recognition. The force has called it a significant and important victory for public safety. In the city, the FTSE 100 is closed down 110 points at 10,498. The pound buys $1.35 and €1.15. LBC weather dry tonight with cloud in the northeast and clear spells and the chance of a frost elsewhere. Windy in the southwest with lows of 1 to 11 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Katie Dartford.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. Cross Question with Iain Dale.
Hello, a very good evening. 3 minutes past 8 on LBC. It's Tuesday's Cross Question. Let me tell you who's on my panel. My podcast wife. Do you like to be called that?
No, absolutely not. That was a terrible start. Can we begin again?
My podcast partner, Dr. Tessa Dunlop, historian, broadcaster and campaigner for a GCSE in Romanian. Believe it or not, there isn't one. And if she can leave this studio happy at 9 o'clock, it will be because somebody has asked a question on it. Up to you. Next to her is making her debut, Kate Nichols, chairman of the trade body campaign group UK Hospitality. Welcome to you, Kate. To my right, Baroness Rachel McLean, Conservative peer, former Director of Strategy for Kemi Badenoch and also former Housing Minister. And next to her, also making his debut, the wonderfully named Perron Moon. I think that is an amazing name. I'd quite like to have that. He's Labour MP for Cambourne and Redruth. They're here to answer your questions. The number to call 0345 0345 6060 973. You can WhatsApp us on that number. You can text 84850. And of course, you can watch us on Global Player, the LBC app, and the LBC YouTube channel.
Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Cross question. Watch live on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
Well, you can guess the subject of the first question. It's from Jerry in Whitley Bay. Hello, Jerry.
Good evening, Ian and panel.
Well remembered.
Yes. Okay, Ollie Robbins today stated that in a meeting with the UK vetting agency that they were minded to reject Mandelson. Now, we know the vetting form has three outcomes, which is effectively a green pass, an amber, which is approved but with mitigations, or a red denied. And the UKSV outcome was denied. Robbins appears to have walked away with the UKSV saying approved with mitigations. He said he'd never seen the formal outcome. We don't know who sees the formal outcome. So if you're putting somebody through vetting and nobody is allowed to be told the formal outcome, what is the point?
Well, let me just repeat that because I think Rachel couldn't hear you. Robbins said he never saw the final outcome of Mandelson's vetting. The PM said he never saw it. So what is the point of the vetting process in the first place? Perrin.
Thanks for the question, Jerry. I think it's a really important one. Ultimately, this was a decision taken by the Foreign Office without the input of ministers and particularly the Prime Minister. And there are profound issues that this whole saga has thrown up around the vetting process, which is why we are going to completely review it and change it. There are questions that have to be asked about the process, such that no minister is aware that a vetting process has not been correctly communicated in the way that it should have done. And if it had been put forward in the way that it should have done, Mandelson would never have been appointed.
But he was actually appointed before the vetting process, I think, even started, wasn't? And he took up his position before it had finished. So I mean, that's obviously something that needs to be reformed, I guess.
Yeah, as I understand it, there's two kind of stages to this, and it's the detailed vetting process that comes later on, and this is where the process falls over because you can, and it's kind of precedent that you can make an announcement prior to the detailed vetting going forward. It's a flawed process, and the issue that you have is that because that detailed process did throw up flags. That suggested that all was not that it should have been, and that the communication wasn't there. The key is the point that it wasn't communicated up the line of command.
But do you understand? I mean, did you see Ollie Robbins' evidence?
I saw some of it. Yeah, I didn't.
I mean, he said he was operating within the rules, where he said it's not good for politicians to have any input into this or have any knowledge of it. Do you accept that?
Ian, this is a very experienced civil servant making an appointment to a very senior role. The idea that however long he'd been in the role, he shouldn't be flagging it to his superiors that it is at least an issue is problematic, to say the least.
Because he didn't even flag it to the Cabinet Secretary.
He didn't.
Rachel McLean, I mean, if you look at it just from a party political point of view, you can see why Kemi Badenoch is calling on Keir Starmer to resign, not just her, indeed the other party leaders are too. But when you listen to Ollie Robbins' justification for the way the system works, does that sort of impact you at all?
Well, I think Ollie Robbins was very, very clear. He was put under pressure by Number 10. Number 10, and Keir Starmer just decided he wanted to put his friend in. I mean, he's obviously, that was a decision, and he was constantly chasing the whole machine to do what he wanted. I mean,
it's not unusual for a Prime Minister to do that, is it?
It's absolutely laughable. I mean, I feel a bit sorry for Perrin, because
Please
obviously
don't.
I was... No, fine, I won't then. But I've been in the position myself having to defend literally the indefensible when we had this...
Oh, go on, give us an example.
Well, we had this situation with Boris Johnson. And, obviously many of us felt that we couldn't continue to serve because Boris Johnson had lied. And Keir Starmer has obviously lied. He's lied.
Has he? How?
He's obviously
How has he
lied
lied?
about the whole process.
Nonsense.
And what he knew, what he didn't know. I mean, the fact is he's now trying to blame a professional and very senior civil servant for what was ultimately his own error of judgment. He knew that Peter Mandelson was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Now he's trying to say that he really cares about the victims. If he cared about those victims, he would not have appointed a paedophile's friend to a very senior role in the British government. If he actually cared about anything, about British security, our national security, he wouldn't have appointed somebody who he knew had risky links with our enemies to a position where he was seeing serious intelligence briefing. I mean, he is just trying to save his own skin. It's an absolute disgrace.
Can I just... I'm really sorry. Keir Starmer did not lie. Even Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage have both dived into this, saying that he lied, and are now pulling back from it.
He has misled the House.
Back from this argument.
Misleading is different from lying.
Exactly.
He has misled the House, hasn't he?
He hasn't lied. He did not lie. He did not lie, and it's really important. He was not told. He did not know, and because he was not told, he did not know. He made a decision based without all of the facts. Had he had all of the facts, he would not have appointed Mandelson.
I just think that's ridiculous. It doesn't stand up to any scrutiny.
I mean,
but would you agree he has misled the House?
Ollie Robbins effectively said today
he's misled the House, hasn't he?
Did not know.
He's misled the House, hasn't he? He's admitted to misleading the House. When Boris Johnson misled the House and apologised for it, Keir Starmer stood there and said, Boris Johnson should resign for misleading Parliament. Keir Starmer has misled Parliament on multiple occasions.
Keir Starmer has apologised.
Boris Johnson apologised many times. It wasn't enough.
It was a completely different scenario with Boris Johnson.
Okay,
I know
really?
the Conservatives are trying to drag us back to Boris Johnson. It is nowhere near the situation that Boris Johnson
really? Appointing a national security risk to the highest position is as bad as eating a piece of cake in the pandemic.
Pulling back from the idea that Keir Starmer lied, because he didn't.
He misled Parliament.
Tessa, you have remained uncharacteristically quiet so far.
Well, I was just sitting back and listening to the unedifying mess at the other end of the table and thinking, oh dear, this doesn't bode well for trust in politics, does it, going into the local elections more generally? Can two things be true at the same time, do you think? On the one hand, we have Keir Starmer, who says he didn't know. Therefore he misled Parliament. And we have Ollie Robbins saying, they put pressure on me. Can both those things be true? So Keir Starmer did put pressure on Ollie Robbins to appoint Lord Mandelson to become the ambassador in America.
Hang on.
That's not what was... Sorry, go on.
Well, I was just going to point out, factually, Ollie Robbins didn't start in the job until the 8th of January, and the appointment was announced before Christmas.
So I agree. So Ollie Robbins...
But pressure was put on Sir Philip Barton, his predecessor.
And then subsequently, Ollie Robbins, having assumed the position, was being told, get your skates on, we need this security vetting to be all cleared so that we can fully get entrenched in Washington and grease our way up the poll. Incidentally, I've got friends in Washington, several journalists, who said, wow, Mandy throws a really good party. When he arrived, everyone was up for it. I'm telling you, including Iain Dale. I nearly called you Sir Iain Dale, because, these days, it doesn't matter who you are. Sir Keir Starmer, Sir Ollie Robbins. It seems to me if you are a Sir, it's more likely that you're going to be getting into trouble. So, Sir Iain Dale, you approved of it. Michael Gove approved of it. In fact, I seem to recall all the right of the political system were applauding this appointment of an individual who masqueraded on the left. So everyone has been caught short here. And the biggest problem is we were tripping over ourselves in an obsequious fashion to work out how to channel Trump, and more's the pity that we left our dignity on the wrong side of the door.
But what about the question, which was, what is the point of the vetting process in the first place if this sort of thing
Now
happens?
I hand to Kate, because sitting removed from politics on my left-hand side is, I believe, someone who's been through a vetting process.
Have you taken over as the host of this program?
No, but I thought I'd help you along, Ian.
I do think, there's dancing on angels on a pinhead. said, and there's a lot of nuance that's been to it. I'm not surprised that a lot of your listeners, Iain, are sitting there thinking, what is the point of the process and why are we debating this process interminably? Because you've got the Cabinet Secretary saying that she took a month to be able to take legal advice, to know whether she could share it. Ollie Robbins had a general view and an honest belief that he couldn't share it. I think what is the point of the process? The security process and the vetting process is about surfacing and identifying risks and working out how you manage them. And before anybody went anywhere near security and vetting, it was pretty obvious that there were risks associated with the appointment of Peter Mandelson, as Ed Miliband said on the, I think,
why did Starmer appoint him then?
So the point of the process is then to identify whether those risks can be managed. I mean, that's a question that can only be put to Keir Starmer himself as to why that decision was taken. But your listener's question is about what is the point of the process. Surfacing and managing risks. It requires full transparency. It requires full disclosure, but it needs to be done in a very confidential process because it is the most intrusive thing that you could ever go through, and you have to have a trusted, confidential space. I've been through it twice when I've worked in politics and I've worked in various situations. And
so what's the most intrusive thing you were asked?
Well, I'm not going to go into that process, but it's a very lengthy process, and it does require complete transparency. So if you don't have that, and if you don't have that confidence as a person going through it, that this is going no further than yourself and the person doing the vetting, and that the person doing the vetting will identify how you can manage that risk. That's the only formal outcome that needs to be done.
The difference here is that if I remember correctly from Ollie Robbins' evidence this morning, he was the person that would decide how to mitigate that risk, but even he wasn't actually informed of the detail of the vetting conclusions.
Did he ask?
I've no idea.
I think if you are, I mean, I'm not a top security person, and I'm not somebody who is accessing confidential information at that level. But you need to have confidence that nothing that you say in any of your background checks is going to be disclosed to anybody else. I would be horrified.
Including the Prime Minister.
Including the Prime Minister. I think you want to know.
I think
you want to have
constitutionally, that is an outrage.
You want to have confidence in a process that will surface the risks in an appropriate and confidential way, manage them and mitigate them. And that's the point that you need to have the senior civil servants working with the Prime Minister. But the Prime Minister and any minister or any permanent secretary who is handling that process needs to be intellectually curious and ask the right questions. And that's what we've got to have confidence in.
The Prime Minister just wanted to circumvent. He just wanted to circumvent. He was just not interested in it. It was just get it done, get it effing done, as Emily Thornberry said. They were just chasing to make it happen.
But could we, hang on a minute, could we accuse Ollie Robbins of the same
one
thing?
At a time.
Could we accuse Ollie Robbins of also not being sufficiently curious about what UK SV had uncovered regarding Peter Mandelson? I think, incidentally, but he saw, because both Keir Starmer and Ollie Robbins probably made the same mistake, which they just walk on by, in you go, our man, we need him in Washington, and neither of them asked sufficient questions. But Ollie Robbins is saw because he's lower down the pecking order, so he's lost his job, and Keir Starmer hasn't. But incidentally, on the rule change, if we now have to have the vetting all in place, done and dusted before the appointment, that's going to make it very slow, because vetting can take months.
Vetting can take an awfully long time. But if you've got two of the most senior civil servants who have a slight difference of opinion about what could and couldn't happen and had to get legal advice before they could talk about whether this is disclosed, it's far from clear-cut. But it is something where we're talking about process, and there are some big fundamental issues at the heart of this. And we spent 2 days with Westminster caught up in the whole of this when there are bigger issues that we need to be dealing with.
We wouldn't be talking about this at all had Keir Starmer kept Karen Pierce in the job, who was doing a brilliant... Everyone, whatever your politics are, everyone thought she was doing a brilliant job. So why she had to be moved, I do not know. But anyway, that's a question for another day. We'll come to more of your questions in just a moment. It's 18 minutes past 8.
This is LBC.
When it comes to retirement advice, the last thing you want is to be put in a bucket. Seen as this type of person, or that type of person. At Fisher Investments UK, we never put you in a bucket. We always tailor retirement advice that's just right for you. Fisher Investments UK. Retirement advice that's as individual as you are. Learn more at fisherinvestments.co.uk. Investing involves the risk of loss. Fisher Investments UK is regulated by the UK Financial Conduct Authority.
train to Cambridge and then all aboard the paddleboards. A little bit different, should be fun. Or wobbly, or wet. The wetsuit's a good look on you, Steve. Oh, actually, this is very relaxed. Georgie's up the river Cam without a paddle. Train home, that was such a laugh. I think I might even have a new hobby. Download the Thameslink Railway app to book tickets and save a third off group travel on off-peak journeys. Thameslink Railway, where every stop is a story.
You know what you're getting with a conference. Laptop backpacks. Security pass lanyard.
If you could just pop this on?
Being asked, how was your journey in?
How was your journey in?
An array of triangular sandwiches. Having to deal with a small crisis back at the office. Sometimes in life you just know what you're getting. Like a great night's sleep and a tasty breakfast. You know what you're getting with Premier Inn.
Cross Question with Iain Dale on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
8 on LBC. With us on the panel, Perrin Moon, Labour MP for Camborne and Redruth, Baroness Rachel McLean, Conservative peer, Kate Nichols from UK Hospitality, and historian, podcaster and broadcaster Dr. Tessa Dunlop. Right, a WhatsApp question now from Adrian, who says he's formerly of Redruth. So you're bringing fans with you, Perrin. We like that. Given Trump has allegedly requested the nuclear codes and been subsequently denied by a general, where are we on the doomsday clock? I have to say that's a detail which I wasn't aware of, but let me give you the background to this. Retired CIA analyst Larry Johnson has told the Judging Freedom YouTube channel that one report coming out of that meeting at the White House is that Trump wanted to use the nuclear codes, and General Dan Kane stood up and said no. He invoked his privilege as the head of the military, so to speak. It was apparently quite a blow-up. There are some very bizarre things going on in Washington, D.C. Only 4 days or so before I go to Washington, D.C. Right. Tessa, do you want to start off on this?
Well, they won't be focusing the nukes on themselves, so you're probably safer than most of the rest of the world being in Washington. I think, and this talks to the brouhaha that we've just been having in the studio for the last 20 minutes, for which full apologies to all listeners who remain, because it is an unedifying spectacle. It's difficult to listen to, but you need process, you need checks and balances, or you end up with terrifying men like Donald Trump in charge potentially of nuclear warheads. And actually, I think I'll take more of this process nonsense in Britain if it means that we don't end up with an unfettered strongman doing what the hell he wants. And I'm deeply concerned about the failure of American institutions, actually including Congress, to put some kind of brake on Trump, who now is holding, it seems to be, the whole world. So some kind of
General Kane clearly has done that.
Ransom. Yeah, but it's interesting that he's able to do that, to be honest, with Donald Trump, who is the commander-in-chief of the military. But I don't know what the specific rules are about nuclear warheads and the American administration. But it seems to me that Trump's ridden roughshod through most of them to date. Because I thought that even to launch a war, you needed Congress's approval. But apparently that's for the birds.
Well, I don't think they're describing it as a war, are they? That's the get out.
But remind me what it's called again. Remind me.
The conflict.
Piracy was, I think we've reframed it this week, haven't we? I mean, it's incredibly scary trend. I think the King spoke to it today. The deeply troubled times we live in, where nuance, compromise, the ability to step back from the brink all seem to be signs of weakness that we no longer countenance at the same time as we celebrate the late Queen, who stood for all those qualities.
Is it today?
Yes, her 100th birthday, yeah. And more's the pity. You know, I think I grew up certainly in the latter part of the 20th century, that idea that the future was going to be about progress and that we'd be living in this period of progress and things would progressively get better. And we no longer are in that era. Now it feels fear-fueled, and I think one of the tendencies to look back all the time, which is what drives populism, is because we don't like and we don't believe in what's in front of us. And I think the Queen, the late Queen, epitomises that. We're looking back at her longingly.
Well, you've done very well to get the Queen in on a question on nuclear codes. Kate?
Well, I think Tess is right. This is about the checks and balances that you need to have in a constitutional democracy to make sure that the experts are in the room, that you have got the controls and the processes and procedures in place to stop this. And this is, it is unedifying. Again, that's a term that we seem to be coming back to. There's an unedifying spectacle of broadcasting and sharing on social media all sorts of threats and bully boy tactics that you are seeing as part of promulgating this conflict. And again, very real world consequences when we look at what that does and what we're waking up seeing on the impact on inflation, on prices, on cost of living, on stability and security in the world. It seems to be on a whim, and it's not helpful that it is, again, releases of speculation and half detailed conversations that are just being released.
Rachel?
Well, I mean, I feel worried about the state of the world as well, as the other two panellists have said, and I don't know anything about this particular incident, but I think it sort of speaks to a wider concern that we all have. I mean, this war is very frightening for most of us, isn't it? And it has an impact on interest rates and the way we live our lives and all sorts of other things. And it's very similar, I think, the feeling in the pandemic, events are spiralling out of control and ordinary people are just a bit at a loss, and we look to our leaders to manage this in a responsible way. And I think people do feel that they don't have that trust. And actually, I think I slightly disagree with what Tessa said about how we're also unedifying. We are actually politicians. We have to put ourselves forward and speak for the people that elected us. Obviously, I'm not elected anymore, but Perrin is, and he's come on tonight to defend his party's position. That's what we have to do. Can I just finish? Yeah. You've had your turn. And we do have to disagree because we don't agree with each other. And that's why we have politicians. We can't all live in utopia where it's all wonderful and we all agree with everybody. That's just not the real world. We are elected on radically different positions. And the way we resolve that is by having robust discussions, which I hope are polite, maybe robust, but we don't actually go to war with each other. And that's how we do it. But I think also there is a slight political angle to this. I think that I am worried about the special relationship with the US. And I think it's very worrying that at the moment when we should be having the right people, we should be having our leaders of the British government focusing on talking to the US and strengthening that relationship. The Prime Minister is completely consumed with saving his own skin. He's not governing the country.
Perrin?
I mean, there is no clearer example of that not being the case than that the weekend the Prime Minister was not hunkered down in number 10 worrying about Ollie Robbins. He was in Paris convening a meeting of leaders to try and deal with the issue with the Straits of Hormuz. Look, the situation with the hostility in the conflict in Iran worries me because of the unilateral nature that one state can just almost act in conjunction with Israel to cause this conflict. I think it shines a light on two things. One is the importance, and perhaps we've taken this a little bit for granted, but the importance of those international organisations like NATO that have acted as a brake and a means of collaboration between nations. More locally, what this has done is it's really focused the United Kingdom and a lot of people on our over-reliance on oil and gas. And the fact that our economy has been really seriously, or will be really seriously damaged at a point where we were just coming out of some really difficult times because of the restriction of oil getting through the Straits of Hormuz. And one thing that happened today, which probably won't make much media noise at all, but the Chancellor came to the House of Commons today to talk specifically about measures to break the link between renewable electricity and the wholesale gas price. This is a really, it's relatively technical and will have gone under the radar, but it's a really significant moment for our economy to break the link between electricity prices and the oil and gas wholesale market is really, really important.
We were talking about that on our podcast
we
today,
did, and I seem to remember I brought it up and Ian immediately started scrolling on his phone. But just quickly, it's ironic, isn't it?
Ian, really?
Yes, can you believe it? The question was about Donald Trump resorting to nukes when the reason for going to war, although no imminent threat proved, was because of the nuclear threat posed by Iran. And let's bear in mind, actually, what Donald Trump did in 2017. He pulled America out of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Need we even be having this conversation?
Let me just put this text from John F. Gustafson. He says, your panel is just complaining. They never offer up a credible alternative to how to deal with Iran with nuclear weapons.
But
let's spend a couple of minutes.
What was wrong with the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action? And actually, if you believe
Iran
Powell,
kept breaking it.
No, 2 seconds. Actually, Trump's actions were particularly precipitous in 2017. And if you believe the words of Jonathan Powell, and he actually is one of the
National Security
Advisor, who I choose to believe. You know, they seem to be falling like nine pins these days. But he said actually things were progressing in a fairly satisfactory way prior to Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu decapitating, how many was it, 30 plus Iranian leaders on that dastardly Saturday morning?
50, actually. Right. We will take more of your questions. Does anyone else want to come in on that? It's always very easy to complain and criticise. This is one of those issues where it's very difficult to think what the solution might be.
The solution locally, from a national perspective, Ian, is to reduce our reliance on oil and gas. It's fundamental to our economy. We have to transition more quickly, even more quickly than my government is doing at the moment, away from a reliance on oil and gas, which is what the Chancellor was talking about today. And this is the start of a series of measures that will make our economy more energy independent. We have to go down that route because then we're not as beholden to foreign states, to, in many instances, actors who are not in the British national interest.
But all the signals coming from the government, mainly off the record, it has to be said, is that they do want to continue with oil and gas. It's sort of going against what they were saying 18 months ago. Now, I understand that, given the crisis that we're in.
Well, you can't move completely off oil and gas because there are elements of oil and gas that we need.
But they're talking about issuing new licences, which they weren't doing 18 months ago.
Well, I mean, we'll see what comes to pass on that score. But all of the focus of the government that I've been talking to is about transitioning more quickly, speeding up those small modular nuclear reactors, increasing the access to the new rounds for contracts for difference, really encouraging businesses to invest in renewables, incentivising businesses to invest in renewables, and that's the approach we should be taking.
Can I just make one observation? I'm not qualified to sort out how to deal with Iran with nuclear weapons, but there are solutions that we can do to build resilience in the supply chain and to reduce the inflationary pressures that are in the supply chain, which will help to insulate our consumers from cost of living issues that are arising as a result of what's happening in Iran.
Right, let's get the news headlines on LBC. It's 8:31. We'll come to more of your questions in just a moment. And here's Katie Dartford.
There's going to be an investigation into how secret security information about Peter Mandelson was leaked to reporters. The Prime Minister's been battling for his political future after a newspaper published information from inside governments, which they claimed showed civil servants overruled advice against giving the peer security clearance. Iran and the US have accused each other of breaching the 2-week ceasefire a day before peace talks are due to take place. It's still unclear whether either side will send a delegation to Pakistan. Donald Trump has told US media he thinks Iran has no choice but to attend. And Princess Anne has opened a garden in London's Regent's Park named after Queen Elizabeth II. Today would have been the late monarch's 100th birthday. LBC weather dry tonight with cloud in the northeast and clear spells elsewhere. Lows of 1 to 11 degrees.
This is LBC.
You know what you're getting with a wedding? Wedding hats. A baby in a waistcoat crying throughout the vows. Themed tables. Awkward best man speech. The plus one?
Hello.
People dancing in a circle. Ruined rental suit. Sometimes in life you just know what you're getting, like a luxury bed and a great night's sleep. You know what you're getting with Premier Inn.
When you're smiling. Banning Dental Group Clinics, with over 5,000 top-rated Google reviews. Keep on smiling. Search Kayak for great deals on Wait, that doesn't say flights. Search Kayak for great deals on car hire? With Kayak, you can compare hundreds of car rental sites to find great deals. Even better, you see costs up front. And if it's flexibility you're after, Kayak's got a handy free cancellation filter. Lovely stuff. So next time you're searching for car hire, at home or for your holes, search Kayak and go see for yourself.
Your time is valuable. Your perspective should be too. The Economist cuts through the noise with the stories that truly shape your world.
How can you believe that a new regime won't crush you just like the previous one?
Online scams are stranger than they've ever been.
When the world's turned upside down, know which way is up. Read, watch, or listen to The Economist.
Cross Question with Iain Dale. Watch live on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
8:34. We have a very lively panel tonight with us. Baroness Rachel McLean, Conservative peer, Kate Nichols from UK Hospitality, Tessa Dunlop, historian, broadcaster and podcaster, and Perrin Moon, Labour MP for Camborne and Redruth. Now, you just said in the break, you've two mentions of Redruth today, but you pronounced it in a very different way to what I have.
Yes, and this is quite often a mistake. The way to pronounce it is almost to forget the RE. It's Redruth.
Redruth. Yeah. Well, who knew? That's the first time I've ever heard it. Right, I'm going to correct myself in future. Right, a text question from Tanya in Crawley, as opposed to Crowley. Should the government be offering support to airlines over the cost of fuel? Trade group Airlines UK have asked ministers to reduce flight taxes while the Iran conflict is going on, and have also asked the aviator regulator to relax the rules on night flights. Quite sure why that would have any much effect on this, but anyway, Kate, let's come to you, because you've presumably been asking the government for help on the hospitality sector.
Absolutely, because you've got an issue in the Straits of Hormuz which is impacting food supply and is going to spike food price inflation. I think the Food and Drink Federation, our sister trade body, said that it could go as high as 9% by the end of the year as a result of this. You've got an energy crisis, a fuel crisis, and uniquely hospitality has a demand side crisis as well, because we are 20%, 30% down on our inbound tourism numbers. So we are uniquely impacted. Yes, we've had 90% cancellations from our key markets, Australia, New Zealand, India, as well as the GCC, and around 15% of international travel transits through the GCC countries. So we are seeing that squeeze on both sides. So we are asking for help and support. There is issues to do with energy costs, fuel costs and jet fuel costs, which are going to impact our sector. So I think now is the time for the government to, they have stepped back up some of the real-time information that they're getting from organisations like ourselves and Airlines UK to understand the cost implications. But if we are really going to bear down on the cost of living and the pressures that our customers are facing, we need to have a sort of ground zero approach to looking at new taxes and having some pauses to take out some of those inflationary pressures.
Including for aviation fuel?
Oh, I would. Air passenger duty is what I think was referenced rather than the fuel duty, which would reduce the cost of flying. But I think more fundamentally, we could look at VAT, we could look at VAT on fuel and energy for businesses as well as consumers, and we could take a pause on some of the taxes that the government is choosing to put through. There are government choices. Some of the levies that we have on our energy bills, for example,
no, but
are
the question was about the cost.
The question is fuel duty. Yes, you could look at that as well.
Okay. Rachel?
So I start from the perspective that, no, the government shouldn't be doing this. I mean, they will need to look at the situation in the round, obviously, and I would imagine that this question is from a trade body. I would imagine that Kate's trade body, and there'll be multiple other trade bodies that will be lobbying the government. And I'm sure they'll all be making a good case, and they've all got a genuine issue in their businesses. I don't doubt that for a second. But I remember when we took the country through COVID, and I was a government minister then, I was actually in the Department for Transport, and I remember being on the receiving end of a lot of these lobbying requests, and actually they were just astronomical figures. I remember the Road Haulage Association asking for £500 million to keep freight lorries on the road, and that was just the first one that came in. There'd be 25 more, and you've got to remember that anything that the government's giving out, it's not the government's money, it's people's money, and that it's going to have to be paid for by putting up taxes somewhere. So yes, people on the one hand might have to pay more for their flights, which obviously has an impact, and it's not something that people would want to see, and the government, I'm sure, will want to mitigate that. But on the other hand, somehow it's got to be paid for, as we saw with all the pandemic costs. I think it's a difficult balancing act, and but my instinct as a Conservative is to say, probably not, no. Let's be really careful, because remember, somehow that's got to be paid back.
Okay. I think there is a difference, though, when you've got taxes that are a fundamental part of what you're doing to stay in business and to keep the country running, or where there are voluntary issues or there are areas where the government is choosing in order to try and deter people from acting in a certain way. There are decisions that could be made.
With that. Yes,
you know, if you are looking at plastic taxes, if you are looking at levies on energy taxes, both of which will fuel energy and food price inflation, then the government is going to be paying for that longer term by higher inflation.
I totally agree with that. Yes.
That's very painful.
Warren points out, just to say that reducing night flight bans will prevent aircraft having to hold before landing, therefore using less fuel. Well, I suppose there is a logic to that. Perrin.
I tend to agree with Rachel actually on this. I think we have to take this in the round. We have to look very carefully at what those overall costs are. The situation we're in at the moment, I wake up in the morning and I look at my Twitter to see what has been announced overnight. It is so fluid at the moment. We know that there's likely to be a significant hit on the economy. I know the Chancellor is very much aware of the likely hit in terms of inflation and further pressures on the economy. But as has been mentioned, those costs are astronomically high, and we've got different groups, different business groups putting pressure on the government because they've got a particular focus in their area, and there is only a finite amount of money. So we've got to make sure that we are prioritising those areas that we think are absolutely essential. I'm not saying that the airline industry isn't essential, but we just have to be really careful about making commitments that are going to cost potentially billions to a country that doesn't have billions at the moment.
Tessa.
I can't cry crocodile tears for the aviation industry. I think the way in which they price hike over, for example, the school holiday period, which incidentally isn't just about yummy mummies wanting to get a suntan in Costa del Sol. It's about essential workers, often low-paid workers in the lowest socioeconomic groups in Britain, going home to their families on the other side of Europe, and they actually can't afford a seat for their child. Okay. I meet people...
That's not the question.
But it is the question, because they actually price hike whenever they want, and they rake it in, and now they're going, oh, help us out, please. They've already doubled their prices, because I've looked, because I want to go to the east of Europe with my family to meet my old mother-in-law, and the prices have gone up before the costs of the jet fuel have fed into the system. So no, they can take it on the chin.
But we are already seeing costs coming through for our high street pubs, bars, restaurants, hotels. We are already seeing a real impact.
Nothing yet.
Yeah. And you're right, you ain't seen nothing yet. And we are the sector of the economy that is bearing the highest number of jobs lost as a result of tax changes in the economy.
But you're not the aviation industry.
No, we're not.
And actually the good news is, because I can't afford to go to Eastern Europe this summer, I'll come and drink in one of your pubs.
Come to Cornwall.
Only one.
Too expensive to get to Cornwall, my friend.
I'm coming to Cornwall next weekend to the Du Maurier Foy Literary Festival.
Oh, you're so middle class, Ian.
I know. I love it. It's brilliant. Right, let's move on to another question. It's from Rico in Queensbury. Is the Home Secretary right to say that it's racist for white liberal people to criticise her for saying that those who express concerns about immigration do have some justifications? Shabana Mahmood told a heckler to F off last night when she appeared at a live on-stage edition of comedian Matt Ford's Political Party podcast. The heckler had accused her of out-reforming reform with her planned changes to the legal immigration system. The Home Secretary added that she thinks there is that element of racism to it, which is, how dare you, a brown woman, say a thing that we white liberals think you're not allowed to say? Well, I'm saying it. You got to admire that, Rachel, haven't you?
Yeah. I do. I mean, I think she's right. So I started my political career in Birmingham, and I remember actually, I mean, this is in 2013 and 14, a long time ago, and before we had the rise of reform. They were UKIP then and a different party. But I remember actually the people that were the most anti the ways of immigration that had changed their city as they knew it were the Asian community, the ones that had been there for a very long time. And they felt they couldn't say it. And so actually I think that Shabana's pretty courageous for saying some of these things, and no doubt she comes in for a lot of flack from her party. Where I sort of criticise her, it's all very well to say it. But
you were doing so well.
Well, let's have a little bit of harmony, but not too much. So she says all these things, she says tough things, and she sort of has a lot of tough talk, but she's not actually doing anything about it. So she's not really taking the action that needs to be taken to fix the immigration system. So I'm afraid, the small boat arrivals are still going up, the asylum system's still in a mess. She's definitely made things worse, not better.
Perrin.
Rachel's done the classic mistake there of mixing asylum seekers with immigration.
I haven't.
Well, you just immediately started talking about boats. Let's face it.
Because it's part of the system.
Net migration was at 847,000 in 2022, 2023. It's now down to 200,000. We need migrants in this country. We do.
But illegal migration has gone up, hasn't it, since Labour's been in
this country. Where I have a difference of opinion with Shabana, and she knows this, is where we're looking to make.
Have you told her to F right off?
Sorry?
Have you told her to F right off like she's telling other people?
No, I didn't. I used different language. But where I do have a difference, and I'm perfectly happy to talk about that, is with the changes we're making to indefinite leave to remain for those people who are already in the UK, who are already working. I've got no problem with the principle of changing indefinite leave to remain for people who've not yet arrived in the UK. But for those people who came here, for whatever reason, many work in hospitality, actually, and in the care sector, who are working through that process, my view is those people should have the indefinite leave to remain based on the rules that the indication of what was going to happen previously. Changing it retrospectively for those people, I have a problem with. But let's face it, we're desperate to grow the economy. We're talking about all of the challenges we face in our economy. We have to have some immigration into this country to support it. In Cornwall, we're seeing the average age increasing. People are not. The birth rate is dropping. That is a really worrying trend for our economy, particularly where you've got issues with key workers, for those care workers, for those teachers, nurses. We need to have that immigration coming in, and so I think we need to have a delicate balance here between the immigration that we need, and this is nothing to do with small boats. They're asylum seekers on small boats, and this othering of those particular people, I think, is absolutely disgraceful, and it leads us down a very narrow end.
Tessa.
Well, I'm really pleased that Perrin mentioned at the very end the cratering birth rate. It's staggering to me that constantly this drip, drip, drip of migration talk, which has gone on ad infinitum for decades, has become so baked into our sort of frontal lobes that now, and I heard Vox Pops on the BBC, dare I admit to listening to that today, where they were saying, what do you think about, Keir Starmer and the brouhaha in Westminster? And the response, well, he should be focusing on other things like immigration. Kids can't get places in schools anymore. Literally, this is what she said. It was a woman in Wales. I thought, what planet are you on?
Well, she got closing.
Well, I don't know. I can't. But she spoke in a. They were in a street market and she was giving it loudly, and she was complaining about the fact that children couldn't get places in schools. This is just a false narrative. Schools are closing, not just across the capital, because there aren't sufficient numbers of children.
You know the drill. The question is all about Shabana Mahmood's comments and about sort of criticising white liberals like you.
It's a race to the bottom, using the effing language. Presumably she's following in Trump's wake. She's wearing the cloak of reform, and they're actually going to get tripped up, and parents clearly rumbled to this because they've so hard to the right tact that they've lost their left to the Greens and they've got nowhere to go. And I think it's something of a national tragedy. Yes, we need to deal with the boats. Yes, that requires a collaboration with Europe. And yes, they can't even be honest about that. And I'm really sad to say that the Labour Party has sort of become become swivel-eyed because they don't know how to be honest or confident about the direction they want to travel in, which is towards Europe, which I believe, if it's peopled by the likes of Perrin, is towards actually a more user-friendly system regarding immigration.
Can I just come back on that point?
Very quickly, because we haven't heard from Kate.
Sorry, Kate, but
It's fine.
that point about collaboration with Europe, the Prime Minister has made it very, very clear that we are going to be engaging in a completely different way with the European Union. We have to focus on the relationship with the French in order to stop the boats, and those discussions are ongoing. We've been very upfront and clear about that.
The French don't want to know, do they?
I
mean, for the last 6 years, these discussions have been going on.
Yes, but it's in the French interests overall to have a strong relationship with the UK.
Right. I'll just be very quick because I know you want to hear from other listeners and other questions. I think, to go back to the root of the question, I'm not sure I would have phrased it in that way, but I think Shabana's response is quite right and quite appropriate. And if you look at all the polling and all the consumer sentiment and tracking, there is a general support for her policy and position and the line that she's taking. What most people are concerned about is making sure that migration is controlled and that we control legal migration and that we clamp down on illegal migration and that we provide a warm welcome for those who are genuinely seeking asylum.
Thank you very much indeed. We'll take some more questions, including our fun question at the end. It's 8:48.
This is LBC.
It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
Get that Toyota electric feeling with the all-new, all-electric Toyota Urban Cruiser. Available with 0% APR representative and £1,500 deposit contribution. And save £1,500 with the Toyota Electrified Saving. Visit your nearest Toyota centre. Price from $29995. Available on Toyota PCP when financed through Toyota Financial Services by 30th of June 2026. Optional final payment. Indemnities may be required. See website conditions apply.
Cancer doesn't care about childhood. It doesn't care what they miss out on or how much you want to protect them. But we do. At Great Ormond Street Hospital Charity, we fund life-saving research, vital family support, and the special things that help seriously ill kids be kids. Until no childhood is lost to cancer. Join us. Search Gosh Charity. Ugh, drizzly drive to the office. Ever wanted to just shove some bits in a bag, hop on a plane, and land somewhere magnifique? Well, with Kayak Explore, it's easier than ever. Whatever your budget, wherever you want to go, simply set the amount you want to spend, and Kayak finds flights that fit. Easy breezy. Search Kayak and go see for yourself.
Hey, Harry. Hello, mate. Got any tips for the football? Your best bet is to head over to Bet Victor. They're giving new customers a terrific welcome offer. If you bet a minimum of £10, they'll give you £30 in free bets.
Oh, that's a steal of a deal.
It's a good darn deal that'll make you squeal for real. Neil?
My name's not Neil.
I know, but it rhymes.
Listen to Harry and make your best bet on the football at Bet Victor. 18 plus, opt in and bet on any football marketing at odds of evens or greater. No cash out, 7-day expiry. Terms and conditions apply. Gambleaware.org.
Cross Question with Iain Dale on LBC. Text 84850.
Perrin Moon is here, Labour MP for Camborne and Redruth.
Redruth.
Was that
Redruth.
right?
It was getting better, Ian.
Thank you. Baroness Rachel McLean, Conservative peer. I always want to say McLean.
No, don't. It's McLean.
No,
Thank you.
I've got it right.
You have, yeah.
Kate Nichols, who you can't mispronounce. She is from UK Hospitality. And Tessa Dunlop is a historian, broadcaster and podcaster. We have a good time doing our Where Politics Meets History podcast, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have different definitions of a good time. The weeks where it's short and sweet and I feel I've got away lightly.
Let's put it this way. We give Corey a hard time, don't we?
You do.
The editing that's involved in this podcast
He's exceptionally diplomatic.
Now, Nicole in Putney says, is it time for politicians to be more robust with striking unions? London Underground drivers who are members of the RMT, which is far from all tube drivers, have gone on the first of two 24-hour-long strikes this week. week over plans by Transport for London to introduce a 4-day working week with longer shift times. They've actually demanded a 4-day working week and have been offered one, but there you go. TfL insists drivers would have the choice whether to switch to the 4-day week or stick to their current working schedule, while the other tube drivers union, ASLEF, is supporting the plans. This must be a nightmare for UK hospitality in London.
It's absolutely catastrophic. And I think when you talk about it as 2 24-hour strikes, it kind of minimises the damage. It's taken out a whole week, effectively, because people are not coming into London. People have changed their travel plans. They're not coming in for major events and conferences, and they are working from home. So you see footfall revenue dropping by around 30-40% across central London hospitality. And that wipes out any profit or viability for the whole of that week for those businesses. It's not just the businesses that are impacted. It's our staff who can't get to work. It's our guests and our customers. It's international tourists who are left confused and bemused and unable to come around, or who are avoiding London. So it has a really damaging impact. And the RMT is saying that they're going on strike because they don't want to compress their working days from 5 to 4. They're forcing all of us in hospitality to compress our working days from 5 to 1 this week, if we're lucky. And so I think I think TfL has said it's unreasonable and not realistic. ASLEF has called it bizarre. We are collateral damage in our sector as a result of these continuing strikes, and we just need to draw a line under it.
Do you think strikes on the Underground should be banned?
I think there should be an essential service requirement built in, that if you've got essential public sector that needs to get people around, that you need to be able to find a way of having that strike action minimised.
If TfL had the balls to introduce driverless trains on every single line, we wouldn't have this. Perrin?
They shouldn't be on strike. They should be getting back to work. And as for the question being tough on strikes, you only have to listen to Wes Streeting talking about resident doctors who've had a fantastic offer and they've rejected it, and we're not going any further. So they need to get back to work, both resident doctors and the tube drivers.
Tessa?
Here.
Oh, you've been affected by this, haven't you?
Yeah, I had to cycle in tonight. I'll be cycling home without lights.
Oh, I thought you were driving.
No, I cycled on my bicycle and I couldn't find the lights, so it'll be, who knows if I'll be around here tomorrow. But the point is, tube drivers get £72,000 a year. They are being awarded this year an above public sector wage increase, above inflation, 3.6%. This isn't about pay, it's about hours, and I think it's unjustifiable in the current climate.
Rachel?
Yeah, Sadiq Khan needs to grow a pair and introduce driverless trains and sort it out. It's shocking.
Perrin's shaking his head again.
Well, he's already had it, so that was fine.
It is
we were told to keep it short.
Can I just remind listeners as well that these are voluntary proposals that they are resisting? It's not anybody who's being forced to do anything. They're voluntary, but they are voluntarily choosing to strike and voluntarily putting our businesses in peril.
I wonder what the percentage of their members that took part in the strike ballot was. Because, I mean, I cannot get my head around the logic of this strike, but clearly ASLEF can't either, which is even more bizarre. Right, let's go to Dean in Wollaston in Northamptonshire. Hello, Dean.
Hello, good evening to you all.
Hi.
I have a question about why Romanian is not a GCSE or available as a GCSE, because my daughter has had to choose her GCSEs this year, and she is Romanian, as she came across when she was 12, and has not had the chance to sort of build her language and continue that way. She's forced into French, Spanish or German, and not had the opportunity when there are lots of different GCSE languages, and Romanian is not one of them.
Well, do you know what, Dean? As luck would have it, we have the creator of the Romanian GCSE campaign on the panel. I'm tempted to think that Tessa might have asked you to phone in.
Really weirdly, I did actually ask a Romanian modern languages teacher to phone in, but Dean definitely isn't Romanian sounding. So no, I don't know Dean. No. I've never spoken to, I don't know anyone in Wilson. So thank you very much. I'm curious to how you have a 12-year-old Romanian daughter sounding as you do, Dean, but I won't go into your private life. There is no UK SV vetting process underway. I'm just very grateful that you've raised this. It's actually a travesty. I've discovered so much about the exam system in this country I had no clue about. But the first thing that surprises everybody is that the second most spoken language in London is Romanian, and the second most spoken foreign language in the UK is Romanian. As a minority, they go unseen, unheard. Their culture is not celebrated. By conferring the status, that you acquire from accrediting a subject into a GCSE, you immediately give it value and children lean into it. Quite the reverse happens if you don't have a GCSE. To give you some idea of the GCSE landscape, there is a GCSE in Biblical and Modern Hebrew. There is one in Punjabi, there is one in Bengali, there is one in Portuguese, there is one in Greek, there is one in Polish, there is one in English, French, etc., etc.
And
There is
Ukrainian.
not one. No, there is not one in Ukrainian. No, and it's an absolute travesty that continually Romania, once again, back of the queue, it's knocked back by the exam boards, and we are yet to get the support we need from the Ministry of Education, particularly Bridget Phillipson. We have a meeting in Westminster. Perrin, as a Labour MP, I expect to see you there. I've emailed and not harassed, that's the wrong word. I've emailed and gently approached every single MP. I've tried to breach data and get every single number I can off Iain, but he's resisted. It's most disappointing. The bottom line is it's wrong. Children, there's speaking exams going on at the moment right across the country for GCSEs, and I spoke to a teacher in Leeds in a very poor area. He said the children going for their Urdu exam, for their Polish exam, for their Bengali exam, and the Romanian kids just sit there feeling like they're secondary once again.
I'm really happy to come back on that. Tessa, I couldn't agree with you more. We need to be celebrating this cultural diversity in this country. I will come to your meeting. More than that, I will write myself to Bridget Phillipson and ask her to look into this as a matter of urgency.
And you can sign the petition on her website. What's it called?
The whole shooting match. It's www.romaniangcse.co.uk. If you genuinely believe that our education system, as it says it is and should be, believes in DEI, that's diversity, equity and inclusion for everyone.
Okay, Kate.
I couldn't possibly follow and better that. I think what it speaks to is a lack of investment and a lack of value to modern languages generally. Other countries do teach their children languages, do have the ability to take exams in them. There is a breadth of opportunity, but we need to make sure it's inclusive of all. And we need to value languages. We need to value the ability to learn different languages and celebrate the ability to speak fluently to people in their own country.
It's a superpower, and these children are dumping their precious Latin language,
let's
and
hear
it's
from
a
Rachel.
portal to others.
So look, Tess has done a fantastic job of advocating for it, and I'm sure she's right that there are a lot of people that would like to do this. The only thing I would disagree with Tessa on is our education system should not be about DEI. It should be about equipping children for success in life and giving them skills that are valuable to them. That's what education
our qualifications
should be about.
framework, which is outside of what happens in schools, our qualifications framework should be as broad as it possibly can be to make sure that everybody has a chance to excel, and we should value and celebrate everybody having a chance to excel in what they do very well. So it's separate from what's happening in schools, because an awful lot of those GCSEs will be taught outside of the curriculum and outside of schools, but they will be capable of having a qualification that's alongside it. And it's
just by giving the Romanian language the same value and status as other European languages and equitable languages in the system.
Well, Jamie says that Bengali is the second most spoken language in London.
Well, God bless Jamie. He doesn't know his stats.
And Rachel, are you going to go to a reception on Monday?
I'm afraid my diary is busy with other things. I'm sorry, but I'm sure you'll have lots of people.
649 MPs have said that to me.
Our fun question from Kaz in Warwick. This is actually a very good one. A couple who met on a local bus service in Northamptonshire have got married. What's the strangest place that you've ever met a partner or a friend? Kate?
Oh, gosh. Having been married 32 years, I think I should probably just go with the standard safe option of where I met my husband, which was sharing a flat. So we met through the Evening Standard flat share adverts 32 years ago, and it was Airy Neve's old flat that we moved into.
Ooh.
So, we only discovered this when we saw the documentary about Margaret Thatcher's rise to power, and it was Airy Neve's flat that she celebrated in, and we sort of sat at the television and going, oh my goodness, that is our front room.
I met his grandson recently.
So that
Apropos of nothing.
There we go.
Perrin.
Oh, I wish this question hadn't come up. I met a woman at a bad dress party, and we had 3 children together. And she became my wife, and I can remember well. Yes, not all on the same night, obviously. Yes, I can remember. I had kind of shoe polish sideburns, and I was wearing a gold necklace and a furry coat.
Oh, well, you can see why she fancied you, can't you?
That is, I think there might have been some alcohol involved, which is, I don't condone. But that is something which...
OK, Rachel.
Well, probably like Kate, I've been married a long time, so it's quite a boring answer. But I met my husband when I was sort of hanging around in the pub at the age of 14 and doing underage drinking, which was, that shows how old I am. I didn't really enforce the drinking age or anything like that. And I should have been studying for my GCSEs, not in Romania. And he was hanging around also in the pub with unsuitable, and we were drinking dodgy things in the bushes later on. So that's how I met him.
So many questions to ask that. What a shame we're 2 minutes over time already. Tessa, I'm bracing myself.
On a Romanian train, where they have the Agatha Christie-style sliding doors and the separate compartments. I strongly recommend travel in Romanian. It does help, of course, if you've done a GCSE in the language.
And that's the final word to Tessa Dunlop, which we all expected, I guess. Thank you all very much indeed for joining us tonight. On tomorrow's panel, the Conservative Shadow Transport Minister, Jerome Mayhew, his fellow MPs, Nasharba Khan from Labour and Dr Danny Chambers from the Lib Dems. He's an ex-vet, by the way, or still a vet. Plus, is he the one that's a vet? I think he is. Plus, the Mail on Sunday columnist Dan Hodges. He's been pontificating quite a lot this week, hasn't he? Right, in the next hour, shoplifting has become a real problem in this country, particularly in London. There's an epidemic of it. I want to know if you've ever tackled a shoplifter. You don't have to have worked in a shop. If you've just been an ordinary shopper and you see someone nicking stuff, have you actually intervened? If so, what happened? Did it all work out well, or is there a bit of a tragic tale to tell? Because we've heard all sorts of stories, and there's a new one today about Morrison sacking somebody for disobeying company rules, which is apparently deter, not defend, or something like that. So I want to hear your stories of whether you've tackled a shoplifter and what happened. 0345 6060 973.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and...
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 9 o'clock, the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committees told LBC the sacking of the head of the Foreign Office over the Lord Mandelson vetting affair was probably justified.
He's not the only one at fault, right? I'm not going to pretend that he isn't the only one at fault. But I think the fault with him was that it was quite clear that direct vetting had come up with a pretty strong recommendation that Mandelson shouldn't be passed. Now, Ollie Robbins said that he didn't read it, and that the impression, therefore, that he got was that it was borderline and that it lent into denial of vetting.
Dame Emily Thornberry led the grilling of Sir Ollie Robbins earlier. He had criticised Number 10's approach to security checks on Peter Mandelson as dismissive, something the Prime Minister's team later denied. There'll be an investigation into how the secret security information about Lord Mandelson was leaked. Dave Penman from the FDA Civil Servants Union told LBC the chaos ever since shows why it's important to keep vetting out of the political arena.
This sort of information and the issues at hand around vetting, as soon as they fall into the political domain, end up being used like this. And that affects our national security. You think about the debate and discussion we are having at this moment in time. Do you think this serves this country's interests or our enemy's interests?
Donald Trump's warned Iran his military is loaded up to restart fighting if no deal is reached. There's uncertainty whether the two sides will meet for talks ahead of the truce expiry tomorrow night. The Prime Minister says the government won't stop fighting anti-Semitism and terror. It's after 7 people were arrested over an alleged arson plot targeting a Jewish site. Separately, a 17-year-old boy has pleaded guilty to arson following attack at a synagogue in north-west London. The head of the Metropolitan Police, Mark Rowley, says we all have a part to play in tackling anti-Semitism.
Society needs to come together and recognise these are British Jews who have been targeted simply because of their faith. That is unacceptable. And the more communities come together and help us identify the offenders, that's absolutely critical, because we can't stand for people who want to drive apart society.
Pubs and restaurants in London fear this week's tube strikes could have a significant impact on business. Drivers who were members of the RMT union are staging the first of two 24-hour walkouts this week in a dispute over shift patterns. In the city, the FTSE 100 has closed down 110 points at 10,498. The pound buys $1.35 and €1.15. LBC weather dry tonight with cloud in the northeast and clear spells and the chance of a frost elsewhere. Windy in the southwest with lows of 1 to 11 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Katie Dartford.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Iain Dale.
7 minutes past 9 on LBC. Well, that was quite an edition of Cross Question, wasn't it? Right, if you missed it, you can catch up on Global Player or the LBC app. Now, Morrison's, a Morrison store manager has claimed that he was sacked after tackling a prolific shoplifter. Sean Egan said he intervened when a shoplifter became abusive and aggressive while being escorted from the Morrison store in Aldridge near Walsall in the West Midlands. At his disciplinary hearing, 46-year-old Mr Egan, who had worked in the store for 29 years, said he'd been told he would be dismissed on the grounds of not following the company's deter, not detain policy. As part of the policy, for me as a store manager, it is to escort him out of the premises. Yet as I was doing so, he was very aggressive and spitting at me, he said. Mr Egan said he was spat at again as he tried to remove the man from the store, adding, "I stepped forward and I flung my arm back. That was my instant reaction. I grabbed his arm to stop him from entering his bag to grab something, and then an altercation occurred. My thought is, I've got to stop this guy. I don't know what he's going to do, not only to me, but anybody else." Now, despite calling the police, the former manager said he was later investigated by Morrison's. Morrison said it could not comment on an individual case, but the health and safety of all colleagues and customers was of paramount importance. Mr Egan said he was struggling with his job prospects and personal life after being dismissed. "It's the only job I've ever had and known since I was 17, he said. He was swinging his forearm and it was hitting me in the neck and side. Asked how his life had been since the sacking, he said, "Terrible. It's difficult to find a job. It's difficult to get on with my normal life. It's impacted my personal life with my children, my partner, and socially. My last pay was January and we're barely surviving. I've given so much to a business where I've actually lived for work. But at that moment, I felt like everything I'd given was attacked. What we have to put up with at the front line is disgusting." Now, he expressed frustration over the lack of support and adequate policies to protect employees from theft and violence. In a statement, a Morrison spokesman said, "We are continuing to take wide-ranging action to address the threat of shoplifting and violence in our stores." Well, how about supporting your employee of 29 years? That would be a good start, wouldn't it? I mean, I struggle to understand how anyone with half a brain could go through this disciplinary process and at the end of it, sack him after 29 years. I hope he takes him to an industrial tribunal. It's an absolute disgrace. Obviously, shops have a duty to their employees, but if the employee takes action to protect the shop and then is punished for it, you wonder what country we've become. And of course, this happened a couple of weeks, well, maybe a month ago now, where there was a similar situation in London and a man was sacked. I can't remember who. Was it M&S or Waitrose or somebody sacked somebody for doing exactly the same thing, and then Iceland stepped in to offer the man a job. And I hope some other supermarket in Walsall will step in and offer Mr Egan a job. So this prompted me to think, well, if you have tackled a shoplifter, what happened? Because, I mean, it will often be store employees who do this, and they do it because they're proud of where they work. They want to protect the goods that are there for their customers. They want to protect the businesses of the businesses that they work for. And they expect if they go that extra mile to protect the business, then that employer should go the extra mile to, I don't know, reward them, but at least praise them for doing it. I think it's an absolute symbol of our failing society when an employer thinks that the way to react to this is to sack the employee. So have you ever tackled a shoplifter? If you have, what happened? Now, I suspect there'll be two sides to this. There will be people who they've done it and then have lived to regret it. I completely understand that. And I'm not sitting here encouraging people to do it, but I do want to hear people's own experiences. 0345 6060 973. And this is whether you're just an ordinary member of the public, you happen to be in a shop and you see someone nicking stuff. Do you then tackle them? And if so, if you have done, what happened? Tessa Dunlop was telling me in the news when she heard we were doing this, that she did this in a store recently where she saw someone nicking stuff, and she literally ran down the aisle shrieking at them, and they ran out of the shop. Well, good on her, I say. I'd like to think that most responsible members of society would do something like that. Wouldn't you? Let's talk to Graham Wotton, who is a former Metropolitan Police officer. He served for more than 30 years and is the author of the book, How to Be a Police Officer, which I had the pleasure of publishing. Graham, good evening to you. I mean, the official police advice is going to be the same as these supermarkets, isn't it? But do you, like me, feel that it's entirely wrong for someone to be literally punished for doing the right thing?
Absolutely. I can't believe, as you said in your intro, how they can sit through a discipline process and then sack someone after 29 years service for literally detaining a shoplifter. And I understand the policy, store policy, you have to follow company policies, etc. But that's not a deterrent for me, just literally ejecting someone having been found stealing. There needs to be something more than that. If you actually catch them and you detain them, so deter, not detain, I think isn't going to stop anybody from going into those stores and stealing things. They're just going to be, if they're caught, and it's a big if, but if they're caught by a member of staff, all that's going to happen is everybody's shown the door. So they're just going to go back to another store and do it again. So there's no deterrent there for me. So the deter bit isn't going to work if you're not going to do anything once you've caught them.
Because also a lot of these stores now have security people on the doors, but even they are not allowed to tackle shoplifters, which you think, well, what is the point of having them there?
Yes, it's most police officers, and it's sometimes since I've been operational, as you know, but I've been to places where literally you go in and it could be from corner shops, it's a family-run business, to big stores where you turn up as a police officer, all they literally want is the goods back and the person told they are no longer welcome on the premises. When you actually go down the road of, well, we'd like to prosecute this person for you. I know we don't want to prosecute them. We don't want to go to court. We just literally want them told they can't go back here again. So, I used to think there's no deterrent here. These people are going to say to their friends, just go in there, nick what you want. And if they catch you, you're just going to be told not to come back and show them the door again. That's not an effective deterrent for me for crime. And shoplifting can be the start of bigger crimes. People start off shoplifting and they can, in some cases, graduate to more serious crimes. It needs to be nipped in the bud. Policing needs to take more of an active step in attending and dealing with these, but they do need the retail industry to support the officers when they turn up to prosecute these people.
Because the trouble is that the very fact that these cases are now being routinely reported in the press and then we're talking about it on the radio, that sends out a signal to shoplifters. Well, I can easily get away with it because nobody's going to stop me. And if there's no deterrent, then don't be surprised if the shoplifting epidemic gets even worse.
And we've seen it increase massively. It's now a policing priority for most forces to deal with shoplifters, to attend them. But as I've said, they do need the retail industry. Shoplifting is an offence. So when you turn up as a police officer, you haven't actually got the evidence for it. The evidence comes from the store detectives, the shop owners itself, because you turn up and most of the time, the shoplifter, for want of a better term, is sitting in the manager's office with the stolen items sitting on a desk. It happened dozens and dozens of times in my career. Most officers start their arresting career with a shoplifter because it's seen as a fairly easy arrest because the person is literally given into your custody by the store detectives. But all the evidence of the offence comes from the store. So that's why you need them to be your witness, because all you can say as a police officer is, well, when I turned up, this person was either held by the store detectives and the goods were either in their pockets or on the floor. So you need them to come to court. You can't actually progress the case without their evidence, because all you can say is the person was being held there. So it's essential they work with policing. Policing needs to do an awful lot more with shoplifting, but they do need, the retail industry is essential to prosecute these offences.
Graham, thank you very much indeed. Graham's book is called How to Be a Police Officer. And no, I won't profit from it because I'm no longer at the publishing company. Now, do you want some breaking news? A new post on Truth Social from Donald Trump. who says that after discussions with Pakistan's Prime Minister and the head of its armed forces, quote, "We have been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. I have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade and, in all other respects, remain ready and able, and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded one way or the other." I guess that's encouraging news, isn't it? Anyway, we'll come to your calls on how to tackle shoplifters or your experiences of doing so in just a few moments' time. 17 minutes past 9.
This is LBC.
Oh, you want weight loss advice?
Weight loss? Actually, what you want to do...
I got my weight loss secret from my mother, who got it from her mother's My mother. tip
weight
is...
loss?
No, forget that. You just keep dancing. Dragon fruit.
Podcast.
Advice.
Or you could go to MedExpress. MedExpress. Healthcare without the noise. Go to medexpress.co.uk/weight loss.
Ali 60mg hard capsules contain orlistat for overweight adults with a BMI of 28+. Follow a reduced calorie, low fat diet. Always read the label.
Switching to Vodafone full fibre broadband is now as easy as pie. Ooh, freshly baked. It's a walk in the park. Hello, little fella. It's like taking candy from a baby. Come on, as if I'd do that. With One Touch Switch, it's easy. We sort everything out for you. We even contact your current provider. Plus, we'll help towards leaving fees. Switch today to full fibre broadband with Vodafone. Up to £200 credit to cover leaving fees. More information and terms at vodafone.co.uk/broadband.
At Lidl, we're giving you 50% off a fruit or veg item on your next shop. Just scan the Lidl Plus app at checkout, and when you scan, you'll be in with a chance to win your whole shop back. Open Lidl Plus and start saving today. Lidl, more to value. 18 plus GB residents, various prices available, subject to availability. Ends 30th of 5th, 26. Full T's and C's apply. See lidl.co.uk/LP-terms.
Go all Irish to France with great low prices. With Irish Ferries, you can for less. Irish Ferries, see you travel differently. T's and C's apply.
Iain Dale on LBC.
18 minutes past 9. Right, let's go to Terry, who's a first-time caller in Bethnal Green. Terry, hi.
How you doing, sir? Good to speak to you.
Not too bad, thank you. What would you like to tell us?
So what's happening is we're shopping in Canary Wharf, literally a couple of months ago, at the top of Waitrose. Lo and behold, the alarm's gone off at Boots underneath. Geezer's flown out with some stuff from Boots, but he's took a lady's handbag on the way out. As he's done that, speed up the escalator, I've clobbered him, bang, as I've literally grabbed him, put him down. Security's walking past me like I'm a teddy bear on the shelf. Like, we can't do nothing. I'm like, are you, what? The geezer's trying to headbutt me at the same time. I'm on the phone to my partner, who's with me now, and she can hear everything that's going on. And security's walked past like I'm a teddy bear on the shelf, waiting to get picked up, telling me we can't do nothing. So I've risked my life for an establishment and a company and a lady's handbag. Lo and behold, the lady come up, took the bag. And he's done security. Security guard's work. Yeah, done a security guard's work. Done the bag. So you're a security guard when you're not allowed to be a security guard. Exactly. So with that, with literally the lady's come up, she's got her bag. She didn't have the capacity to say thank you because she was so in shock of obviously what's gone on. And security guards looking at me like I'm doing wrong. The guy's trying to headbutt me while I'm on the floor. And I'm telling the guy, I'm trying to hold him, mate, listen, stop doing that. Security's looking at me. So obviously I've let the guy go. The guy's veered off. He's run off. Security guard, let's get it right. The geezer was about 30 stone. I don't know what he's doing being a security guard. I don't know what your purpose is, because what are you securing? So there must be, I don't understand what you're securing. And then I then got a warning from the staff at Canary Wharf telling me that you can't take the matters into your own hands. Mate, I wasn't worrying about Boots. It was the lady's handbag.
Yeah.
I wasn't worrying about Boots. Boots is Boots. This is a person's handbag. And the fact that security stood there. He stood there. Well, I'm telling you, he stood there, looked at me like, what are you doing? So inside Canary Wharf, and I'm not this way inclined, but inside Canary Wharf, you've got multiple luxury shops. So does that mean that, just for instance, I needed to do something, and I went to Rolex, and I took a watch, what, security not going to do nothing? Well, I can just walk there and walk out.
Well, I suppose each individual shop will have its own different policies, but I mean, the message that we're all getting is that shops tell their staff not to intervene. And I mean, I suspect it would be more difficult in a shop like Rolex because everything would be under lock and key. But
bearing in mind, sir, without cutting you, Ian, sorry, sir, this is Canary Wharf, so they've got it's everything in one complex. It's in a mall.
Yeah.
So regardless if it's Rolex, Boots, it's the same security guards, it's the same security. You know what I mean? From the moment you enter Canary Wharf at the Riverside to the moment you get off Canary Wharf at the old McDonald's where Billingsgate Market is, it's the same security guards. So they own that. Well, not own, but they control the whole facility.
Like the whole result.
And it doesn't make sense. So I'm sitting there. The gentleman's literally trying to put his hand in his pocket, try and take something. I can only assume. So I won't say anything. Yeah. He could be trying to scratch himself. I don't know.
But I mean, you reacted instantaneously without really thinking of the consequences, didn't you? Do you regret that now?
No, sir. No, sir. I'll do the same thing in about 6 minutes. I think it's something that's in us. You know what I mean? I'm 45. I'm an 80s boy. So it's something that's in us. I think it's the way we've been raised by our parents.
It's just a human nature.
It's a human nature. You're walking over London Bridge every day to go to work. If you see someone jump in, okay, you would contemplate, leave your phone outside, leave your trainers, and jump in. And your door keys, but you jump in. It's a reaction. You don't hesitate. You don't think of yourself, and afterwards it's like, why did you do that? But it's human nature, and this is what's missing in today's era. It's not there.
Yeah.
There's no togetherness. There's no on an estate where people are playing out together.
You see, the thing is that you were brought up to do the right thing. I was brought up to do the right thing, and yet constantly people who do the right thing seem to be punished for it.
Chastised for it. And the amazing thing is that we get chastised for doing the right thing in the way that we've been brought up in the society that we've been raised in, but nothing happens to anybody else.
No.
And then we get the so-called, we shouldn't be doing this, we shouldn't do that. So what should we do? Just let the person run past with the person's with the bag. The lady had
everybody knows right from wrong.
Exactly. The lady had a child in the pram. Like, what do they want you to do?
Yeah. Tony, thank you for your first time call. We've enjoyed the commentary in the background as well. Do you get that a lot?
We're together, we're one unit. We're one unit, and you can't ask for no more than what you have in front of you. And I kid you not, I would not change it for nobody else.
Well, thank goodness for that. I'm sure she's very relieved by that comment, Tony. Thank you. Let's go to Lily in High Wycombe. Hello, Lily. Hello. Oh, I think the line's gone a bit funny. We'll come back to you in a moment, Lily. Let's take a text before we do that. These faceless bosses are all too quick to complain that shoplifting is out of control, and now they sack those who try and stop it. Make the madness stop. We live in an entirely consequence-free society. This is how society collapses. The only ones who gain are the criminals, because the weak, wet lefties who don't like confrontation don't have the minerals to deal with the potential violence when society collapses. It's pathetic, says that texter. David's in Hammersmith. Hi, David.
Hello, Ian. How are you?
Good, thank you. What would you like to say?
Well, I managed to catch one of these guys who was a thief, not a shoplifter, but he stole something from a neighbour's doorstep, and my wife spotted it, and I managed to catch him, stop him, and somebody called the police, and he turned out to be quite a sad character. But I think there's another example. My son got into a fight on a tube because he tried to step in and stop a thug bullying one of the guys who was a school friend of his who was weaker. And there's a similar situation to the shop analogy, actually. The headmaster couldn't condone what he'd done, because the problem is it's all based on insurance and trying to be careful, and you daren't advise your kids to get into fights in the same way that the shops don't want their staff getting into fights, because if the shoplifter draws a knife and the person gets injured or, God forbid, killed, then the liability is much worse. So they have to deal with it in this corporate manner. And it's very sad because it seems like society has lost the moral integrity. But what happened with my son, and I think the headmaster was just exemplary in the way that he handled it and the way I wish the store brand would have handled it. So right at the end of term, my son got a special prize for character. And the headmaster said to him, rather quietly, said, "Harry, that's for what you did on the tube. I can't tell anyone, but well done." And I think in the case of this guy who was in the shop, you have to take your hat off to him for having the bravery to confront the shoplifter. And the store has to have found a better way to have handled it. They don't want confronting people, but they should certainly not have sacked him. They should have done something different.
Well, the way that they should have handled it, in my belief, and I speak as somebody who used to own a shop, and we had shoplifters, of course, the way to handle it was to say, right, sit the person down and say, right, we've heard about all this incident. We want to remind you that the company policy is X, Y, and Z, and you shouldn't have done it. And the meeting is now closed. And then after the meeting is formally closed, say, bloody well done.
Ian, there's only one moral from this story. Are you there?
Yeah.
You should be running that big chain.
Oh, God, no, there is no. I think if I managed a supermarket chain, it would probably go bankrupt within about 3 months, mainly because I would be stealing all the Cadbury's cream eggs and all the lilt.
Anyway, you get my point.
I do get your point, and I think you've made it very well.
Right.
David, thank you very much indeed. Text here from Adrian, who says, my brother-in-law and I took down shoplifters at a supermarket when we were doing a charity collection. My brother-in-law was an ex-manager of the chain, so understood the impact on the manager of the store. We pinned them to the ground until the police turned up. They had just swept the shelf of cosmetics into a large bag and were brazenly walking out of the store. He was having none of it and floored them. To be fair, I just sat on their legs when they were down. We did laugh afterwards. Why are you in prison? Well, I got taken down by 2 charity collectors. Well, well done you. I mean, surely most people, most right-thinking people would have done what you did. I don't think that should be the exception. It ought to be the rule. Christmas Eve is a pharmacist. He came in and filled 2 holdalls. I took him to the floor and held him until police arrived. He had a screwdriver and would have used it given the chance. We see that is a bit of a warning, isn't it? Because you never know what weapons these people might have, particularly if they are so-called professional shoplifters, rather than a kid just sort of doing it by chance. Right, this is from Pete, who says, this case is telling all shoplifters steal from Morrison's. It's fine, our staff will not do anything to come and help, so come and help yourselves. Muppets, says Pete. Couldn't agree more. And this, it says, businesses aren't loyal, thus they should no longer be afforded any loyalty. I must admit, I don't do, my partner does all the supermarket shopping, but when I heard that case in southwest London of the Waitrose a few weeks ago, I did think to myself, well, if I was a supermarket shopper, I wouldn't be going to Waitrose tomorrow. But of course, these things are all very temporary. You try and you want to make a protest, but in the end, what does your one voice mean in these circumstances? Right, we'll take more of your calls on your experiences of tackling shoplifters in just a moment, but also we'll be crossing live to the United States to talk to Simon Marks about Donald Trump's most recent Truth Social post. It's 9:30 on LBC, time for the news headlines with Katie Dartford.
Donald Trump has announced an extension to the ceasefire with Iran. In a post on Truth Social, he said the ceasefire will be extended until such time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded, one way or the other. Downing Street's denied there was a dismissive approach to Peter Mandelson's vetting process before he was given the job of ambassador to the US. Sir Keir Starmer's been accused by the Conservatives of putting the country's national security at risk. And officials at social media companies say they don't accept their sites are inherently addictive. They've been speaking to MPs about children's screen time and harmful content. MPs are consulting on a social media ban for under 16s. LBC weather dry tonight with cloud in the northeast and clear spells elsewhere, lows of 1 to 11 degrees.
This is LBC.
Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And come on in to Classic FM Calm, LBC's soothing sister station. Find peace in the music with Classic FM Calm. Listen on Global Player or ask your smart speaker to play Classic FM Calm.
When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you.
Life feels better with a smile. Banning Dental Group Clinics. Modern, comfortable and affordable dentistry for all. See online for our price match promise. Keep on smiling.
Keep on smiling, keep on smiling, and the whole world smiles with you.
banningdental.co.uk.
Experience. It's knowing when something is worth waiting for and when it isn't. That's why Saga Health Insurance offers unlimited GP appointments whenever you need them. With a choice of flexible plans, prompt tests and treatment, your health is taken care of. And right now, you'll get a £250 gift card when you take out Saga Health Insurance. Search Saga Health Insurance for a quote today. Start a new policy before the 28th of May. New customers over 50 only. Terms and conditions apply.
Nothing beats that just booked feeling. Because when you book a Jet2 holiday, you start dreaming of pool days and seeing the sights. Get ahead for summer. Book now with just a £60 deposit per person. Choose from our best rooms and hotels and save £200 per couple. Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. Package holidays you can trust. APTRA Natural Protected. Subject to availability and conditions.
Iain Dale. Text 84850. This is LBC.
9:33 on LBC. Let's have a word with Simon Marks, LBC's Washington correspondent, who has news of Donald Trump and a new Truth Social post. Simon.
Yes, indeed, Ian. 9 minutes past 9 your time, President Trump took to Truth Social to make his big announcement of the day, which is, first of all, that he is extending the ceasefire between the United States and Iran indefinitely, while he says a fractured Iranian leadership is given an opportunity to unify the proposals that it wants to present at peace negotiations with the United States. But the other aspect to this announcement, which is perhaps not capturing as much attention as it should in the headlines that you'll be seeing flashing up on your mobile phones and your computers, is that the president is also extending indefinitely his blockade of the Strait of Hormuz again until the Iranians come together with what he describes as a unified set of proposals for negotiations. And that will be devastating news to a whole variety of different industries all over the world that rely not only on the oil that transits through the strategic waterway, but also the fertilizer and chemicals used, particularly, for example, in the food sector. And in many ways, one has to wonder whether the Iranians aren't going to be celebrating the nature of this announcement. No immediate American attack on Iran's electricity power plants, its bridges, as the president had threatened just within the last few hours. Another example of the Tucko presidency. Trump always chickens out. A U-turn being announced by the president on that, but also an extension of the American blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, which is just going to put an enormous fresh crimp in the American economy, in the world's economy, and lead to a further increase in petrol prices here and around the world.
Are they coming for you, Simon?
Yes, absolutely. No, they didn't see me. They've moved on somewhere else.
I'm just wondering if I don't know if you've been listening to what we've been talking about. We're asking people for their experiences of tackling a shoplifter. Have you ever done that?
Well, I've never tackled a shoplifter, but my dad used to own a shop. I don't know if you knew that, but my father owned a delicatessen in northwest London for many years, and I can testify to the personal stress that shoplifting certainly caused at least one small business owner in northwest London back in the 1980s. He would occasionally tackle people, but, you know, very difficult to do, as we know from what we're hearing from the big retailers in the UK.
Absolutely. Simon, thank you very much indeed. That's Simon Marks, our Washington correspondent, with the latest on Donald Trump's Truth Social. Chris says, Ian, I flattened a shoplifter in the street outside the Co-op. He floored both the female shop assistants. As he was running away, I came across him at full speed with a shoulder barge and sent him flying over a parked car's bonnet. He had a shopping basket full of food and booze. That went everywhere. He then came to me with a bottle of vodka in his hand and threatened to clock me, but I stood my ground. After a while, he calmed down and admitted he was an alcoholic and had no money, etc. He walked away when I went in the shop. The shop was packed with people watching this play out, and I got a huge round of applause from them all. Still got no discount on my food shop. I guess it depends on the individual member of the public to assess the situation. That's Chris in Epsom. Well, so the shop didn't actually give you a reward or anything. I mean, you see, that's something. If I'd run a bookshop, and obviously people do nick books, and I mean, we didn't really. I can't remember catching shoplifters very often. But if one of my customers had caught a shoplifter and apprehended them and got the book back, I would have let them have a free book at least, because I'm a generous person like that most of the time. Let's go to Frank, who is in Peckham. Hello, Frank.
Hi, Ian. How you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. What would you like to say?
I used to be a store detective from, I think, 1992 to 1994, and security officer. So the store detective, we travel to all the B&Q shops, and taking care of the shop. And also, Bracknell, they say, Sainsbury in Bracknell. Once upon a time, there was a guy had a trolley, not a basket, a trolley full of goods.
A trolley?
Yes, and I've been watching him, so he didn't recognize me. But I've been watching him and, taking the stuff in for almost an hour and a half in the shop. And eventually, he went past the checkout and then pushed the trolley out. And I just went out and I said, excuse me, and he started running. So I grabbed hold of him. And then I got it up from the workers, and we took the trolley back and put it on the scanner and checked the price for the trolley, which was probably over 300. It was arrested. The police came and arrested him.
So you managed to apprehend him as well as the trolley?
Yeah. That's why I'm a bit surprised. I mean, I've been listening to your radio for years.
Yeah, but that was 30 years ago, though, wasn't it, Frank? Because I don't think that you'd be able to do that now.
But I thought probably the rules are the same rules, but I don't know, But we used to do a lot of time. We used to arrest people. Even in B&Q, we used to push trolleys ourselves. We had the radio in our ears. We push the trolleys like we're doing shopping ourselves, but we're not doing shopping. We're just watching. And sometimes you stand down there, you see a guy come in and take, the shower, the shower equipment, very expensive. And, we'll take you off the box, put it in the bag right in front of you because he thinks you're also someone shopping, and then walks away.
It's appalling. It really is. Frank, thank you for your call. This is an anonymous text. Do put your names on texts. Christmas Eve in a pharmacist. He came in and filled... Oh, no, we've already done that one, haven't we? Let's do this one instead. Faye says, my late granddad was walking into a supermarket and a man with a gun was trying to rob the company, collecting money from the store. He ran and rammed them with his trolley. He got a cup of tea from the staff to calm his nerves afterwards. I should think so. And later, a round of applause at the cricket. This was quite a few years ago now. He told us his army training kicked in. He was 85. You see, that's the sort of person that deserves some sort of public recognition for doing something like that, isn't it? Let's go to Johnson in Southall. Hello, Johnson. Johnson, are you there?
Hello, Ian.
Oh, you are there. Marvellous.
With B&Q. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, carry on.
Yes, regarding to B&Q, it's always happening. I work as a security guy for 9 years. Yeah. In all the retail shops, B&Q is always a target. Even in North London where I work, you can always hear them on the radio, people stealing their hammer, jigsaws and everything. That guy is right. He doesn't stop. Anyway, for me to come to my point is this shoplifter, they call them Spice Girls. I don't know whether you heard about them. They're a very violent organization. They punch me in the face and they want to run out with a bags. I will mention the name, it's a very expensive bag in my shop. Then she punched me on the face and the man punched me on the head. I had to tackle them down and punch them again by the door. So if anybody does that to you, please retaliate. That's my answer. Because otherwise you'll be punched to death.
And I mean, the problem here seems to be the problem seems to be, Johnson, that the different stores have policies which are incredibly inflexible, and if someone does go against the policy but does what people would think of as the right thing, they get punished for it. And surely common sense needs to be brought into this.
Yes, I agree with you in 100%. But again, the case of Waitrose is wrong. They should have sacked the person that tried to prevent their stock stealing. But where I am is mainly dominated by women. Women is always afraid. So I cannot stand by and see a shoplifter punching a staff without me reacting.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
No,
I know what you're saying. I agree with you. You're 100%. But you don't punch people like that. I just want to do away with bags worth of £1,000.
Okay, Johnson, thank you. Anastasia says, get a shoplifter to telephone you and ask them why they do it. Okay, well, very happy to hear from a shoplifter, I guess. Dan is in Leeds. Hello, Dan.
Hello, good evening, Ian. I was going to an Asda, a local. It's a bit hard to follow some of these stories because this is like cheese related. But I was following somebody in who just appeared to be a bit sort of shifty. So I followed her to the fridge and she proceeded to put 2 packs of Cathedral City cheese into a coat. And then she went sort of straight to the front of the queue and she asked the gentleman if he could order her a taxi, which was a bit sort of strange, but I think it was just to see if he had sort of spotted her. Anyway, she proceeded to leave the store, and I shouted after her, there's a shoplifter, as I'm a wheelchair user, so I couldn't really sort of speed after her as such, but she disappeared into the night, and that was the end of it, really. And
nobody did anything?
No, well, the gentleman in the shop did sort of come out, but everybody just, looked round and was still in the queue and didn't do anything. So actually, I went to the co-op, which was sort of further down, just to say, I've seen a shoplifter, so, just keep an eye out. But they said, we're just on minimum wage, we probably won't sort of really do anything. There was no security guard, so they didn't really want to get involved, which is, I suppose, understandable.
It's their job, surely. I mean, what's the point of having a security guard if they're not going to get involved?
Oh, no, there was no security guard as such. It was just actual sort of staff. So a lot of them were, young sort of guys and girls, and they just, didn't want to get involved in any what could lead to, violence, whereas I'd be quite prepared to use my wheelchair.
That would be quite a spectacle, wouldn't it, Dan?
Yes, yeah. No, I'm ready for it.
No, but what would have happened though, Dan, if you had tackled this person and rammed them with your wheelchair or something?
Yep.
Nobody would have intervened to help you. They'd have all been busy filming it for their social media.
Yes, I probably would have been arrested sort of for assault or something like that. So anyway, watch this space.
You would have been arrested for not being in control of a dangerous wheelchair or something like that.
Well, yes, maybe. Yeah, something like that. But
okay.
Yeah, it's a real bugbear of mine.
I'm not surprised. Dan, thank you. Tom says, I used to be a security guard at Safeways about 22 years ago. I worked alongside store detectives who were very good at their job, but on one occasion, upon following a guy around the store, I assisted them when the thief left the shop after stealing some bottles of liquor. When we finally stopped him at the petrol station, rather than taking him back to the store detective said to the thief, just to give the bottles back and he can go. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was appalled at this decision. Well, I think that may have been because if the store detectives have experience of apprehending shoplifters and then phoning the police and then the police don't come, you can kind of understand why they get a bit cheesed off by that and therefore don't take the action. They just get the goods back. I suspect that might be the explanation. Right, we'll come to more of your shoplifting or apprehending shoplifter experiences in just a few moments' time. I mean, nobody's phoned with a tragic incident yet. I'm not particularly wanting anybody to, but I mean, these things don't always end up the right way, do they? 0345 6060 973. It's 9:47 on LBC.
Coming up at 10 on LBC, Henry Riley.
The latest fall guy gave evidence today in Sir Ollie Robbins. Given he's been sinned against, should he be offered his job back? Plus, should younger generations be banned from ever buying cigarettes?
Henry Riley at 10. Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
Go all Irish to France with great low prices. With Irish Ferries, you can for less. Irish Ferries, see travel differently. T's and C's apply.
Listeners, we interrupt the airwaves to share an incredible discovery. The reason why Britain hasn't been so great of late is because the country hasn't been eating enough Weetabix. We must get to work in rebuilding Great Britain, Bix by Bix. By delivering Weetabix to whoever plans the traffic diversions, to delivery drivers who can't seem to find your house, and people who don't stack the dishwasher properly. To Britain, we must say, have you had your Weetabix?
Your time is valuable. Your perspective should be too. The Economist cuts through the noise with the stories that truly shape your world.
How can you believe that a new regime won't crush you just like the previous one?
Online scams are stranger than they've ever been.
When the world's turned upside down, know which way is up. Read, watch, or listen to The Economist.
Tesco Insurance are driving down the cost of motoring with 10% off car insurance. Take out a car insurance policy before the 15th of May 2026 and you'll get 10% off with Club Card prices. We offer a range of cover options, so you can choose the one that's right for you. Save 10% when you buy or renew a car policy with Tesco Insurance. Search Tesco Car Insurance and get a quote direct today. Club Card required. Excludes add-ons. T's and C's apply.
When it comes to retirement advice, the last thing you want is to be put in a bucket. Seen as this type of person or that type of person. At Fisher Investments UK, we never put you in a bucket. We always tailor retirement advice that's just right for you. Fisher Investments UK, retirement advice that's as individual as you are. Learn more at fisherinvestments.co.uk. Investing involves the risk of loss. Fisher Investments UK is regulated by the UK Financial Conduct Authority.
Iain Dale on LBC.
9:49 on LBC. We're talking about your shoplifting, no, not your shoplifting experience, your apprehension of shoplifter experiences. Michael's in Sunderland. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Ian. Thanks for taking the call. I'll be quick and I'll make two quick points. The first thing is, what people don't realise is the honest people like us, where you're paying for it by they're putting the prices up. Yep. It's bad enough than profiteering now with the oil. But any shop that sacks anybody for stopping shoplifters, I would recommend people boycott it and they'll soon change the philosophy because their profits will be more than what the shoplifters are taking if thousands of people stop shopping there. That's one point, because what happened during COVID, where I live, there was a shop was charging an extra £2 for milk and baby milk, powder and everything else. And after the pandemic, people just boycotted it, and then it closed down. So that's people power. People don't realise the power we have got as consumers. The second point is, in the 70s, late 70s, by the way, when I was a young'un, there was a certain shop that was getting regularly shoplifters' kids were going in. So what the owner did was he got his friend at the time, drove him in pinchers with a main dog everybody used to have. He got his friend just to be at the end of the entrance, stand there, used to give him cups of tea or whatever with his dog. It soon stopped. I know you can't do that now because of all the dog regulations and things like that, but I mean, what can you do if your dog comes off the lead, you know what I mean? Or if you're just busy strolling or giving it some water outside of a shop and it goes after a shoplifter? Do you know what I mean? That would be my response anyway. You've got to stop it, man. At the end of the day, we are paying us honest people right now with the petrol. But us as consumers want to start using our power by avoiding them shops or boycotting them one way or the other, and they'll soon change the philosophy.
While you're on, Michael, can I just thank you for beating Spurs the other week?
Oh, yeah. Look, I remember I spoke to you just after we beat you 3-0 at our place, and then you beat us. So,
No.
Look,
I'm not a Spurs fan. I'm a West Ham fan. That's why I'm thanking you.
Yes, I know. I wanted you to win last night on a different note. Because we beat you, and you kind of...
I'll tell you what, Michael, you said a really bad thing there, because Chris, my producer, is a Palace fan, and he was at the game last night because he couldn't be bothered to come into work, so he decided to go to the game. And he's now going to ban you from the programme after you've said that.
Palace are safe. It's Spurs who want to go down, isn't it?
Wow.
He must want Spurs to go down.
The perfect season for me would be for us to stay up, for Tottenham to go down, and Arsenal to bottle the league.
And Chelsea are busy getting beat.
And Woody, my other producer, he's now walking out, I think. Michael, thank you for introducing dissension in the camp. Thank you very much indeed.
Good night.
Good night. Let's go to Chris in Epsom. Hi, Chris. Did you not just send in a text?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, how you doing?
I'm all right. What would you like to tell us?
I've had 2 incidents really in terms of apprehending preventing shoplifters, etc. First one was at a local co-op. The local co-op is very, very close to where I live. It has a service road that people can sort of access it, I suppose is the best way to describe it. So I was walking down there, going to get some bits and pieces, and I could hear a real hullabaloo that was going on. And basically what was happening was this guy was robbing the co-op, and he was wrestling with 2 of the female shop workers that were there. And he knocked both of them to the floor. And this was kind of like in the entrance to the supermarket. So as he was running away, it's kind of a little bit comical. And he's running away from it. He's knocked him to the floor, and as he's running away, he's dragging a one of these sort of like baskets, I suppose, that's got like an extendable handle and a wheel, and he's running away from there. So I took flight, and I'm not a small lad, and I ended up shoulder barging him, and he ended up going over the bonnet of a car. A parked car, and all of the stuff went everywhere. He was obviously a little bit peeved at the situation, was deafening and blinding and so on and so forth. And the people from the co-op, they came out and they gathered all the staff and so on and so forth. And they went back into the store, and they locked the door. So I'm now left outside.
Oh, charming.
Yeah, I'm now left outside with the shoplifter and myself, and he has a bottle of vodka in his hand. And so we kind of like square up, and he's like, you limping away, and he's like, you've done my knee, and how dare you, Anyway, cut a long story short, I was like, listen, man, I said, what's your problem? You know, why are you doing this? And we actually got into a conversation. He said he was an alcoholic and he was so on and so forth. And he passed me back I said, can I have the vodka? And he gave me back the vodka, and he went on his way. And I went back they opened up the store, and I got a large round of applause from everyone that was in there. And so I didn't get a discount when I went in to buy, which kind of like annoyed me a little bit. But then I had a second incident, which was so you get like these little Morrison Expresses, which is kind of like that, and a post office. And the guy that works in there, I know quite well, and he's got some learning disabilities, bless him. So I was buying what I needed to buy, and there was a group of kids outside, and he looked really nervous. And I looked at the guys, and I looked at him, and I said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Do you want me to stay?" And he said yes, because he expressed to me in the past, you know, that how many times he'd been shoplifted. So there was two boys and two girls that came in. They both went immediately to the back of the shop and started loading up into their jackets with bottles of beer and so on and so forth. The first guy came down to go out of the shop, and I wouldn't let him out the store. And he was like, "Why, you know, out my way?" And I said, "I'm not going out your way." I said, "Just give me what you got, and we'll say no more about it." Anyway, he gave me what he had, right? So I let him out the store. But there was obviously the other guy and the two girls. So I went up to the back of the store, and I let the two girls go. And I said to the guy, "Have you got any more?" I said, "Empty it, give it to me now." And he wouldn't. He became a little bit more aggressive. So I had to actually physically grab him and push him from behind down the aisle, further and further and further down the aisle towards the exit of the shop, and pushed him a little bit too hard, and pushed him into the lottery stand. So he ended up on the floor in a heap. But I had to just pick him up. I took the bottles off him because they fell out of his jacket, picked him up, grabbed him by the neck, threw him out the store, and fortunately, they've never been back. They've never bothered.
And how old were they?
I suppose they were probably like 17, something like that. I mean, I'm 52. I'm 6'4". I'm a big boy.
Not to be messed with.
No. Well, it's not a case of not to be messed with. It's just a case of I think people have to assess the situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, Chris, well done you. I wish everybody did that. I suppose it's easier to say if you're 6'4" rather than 5'2" and female or even male. But it's been very interesting hearing people's experiences over this hour. Thank you very much. Thanks for all of your calls and messages this evening. I'm back tomorrow from 7, but if you miss my voice, you can listen to the latest episode of the Where Politics Meets History podcast with me and Tessa Dunlop. You can imagine what we've been talking about in the new episode. If you missed any of this evening's show, you can listen back on our free Global Player app or the LBC app, where you can stay up to date with all the latest news, videos and opinion. Download the official LBC app now for free from your app store. Coming up at 1 on LBC, it's James Max. But right now, in for Ben Kentish, here's Henry Riley.
Thank you very much, Ian. Good evening. At 10 o'clock.
I don't fully understand the reasons that I'm in the position I am in. I'm desperately, desperately sad about it. I love that job.
Composed and detailed testimony from the sacked head of the Foreign Office, Sir Ollie Robbins. Given it seems he's been sinned against, should he be offered his job back? At 11.
It is, in fact, the biggest public health intervention in a generation, and I can assure all noble lords it will save lives.
It's now cleared Parliament and will mean children aged 7